Welcome. I'm Magnus, and I bring you horror stories to help you relax, or maybe to keep you up at night. Tell us where you're from. Are there spooky forests nearby? If you're a fan of scary stories, subscribe and drop a like. Get cozy, and let's begin. My name is Declan Mercer, 32 years old from Portland, Oregon. I never imagined my Hawaiian vacation would turn into the nightmare that still haunts me today. It was supposed to be a simple adventure, a week-long camping trip to the historic lookout towers scattered across Kauai's lush landscape. The travel blogs made it seem so idyllic. Panoramic views of emerald valleys, the distant shimmer of the Pacific, and night skies untainted by city lights. Perfect for someone like me who needed a break from the architectural firm where I'd been burning the midnight oil for months. I'd convinced my college roommate, Vance, and his wife Naomi to join me. We hadn't seen each other in years, but when I mentioned Hawaii, they jumped at the chance. Vance had changed since our university days. His once lanky frame had filled out, and a carefully maintained beard now covered his jawline. Naomi was sharp-witted with a talent for photography that had earned her modest fame on social media. The fourth member of our group was Naomi's younger brother, Ellis, who had tagged along at the last minute after a bad breakup. Silent and brooding, he spent most of the flight staring out the window while the rest of us caught up. The rental Jeep handled the rugged terrain better than I expected as we navigated the winding roads away from Lihue Airport. Dense jungle pressed in from all sides, occasionally breaking to reveal steep cliffs and the distant crash of waves. The humid air hung heavy with the scent of wild ginger and something else I couldn't quite place, something earthy and primal. Vance drove while I navigated, guiding us toward the first lookout tower where we planned to camp for 2 nights before moving on. "You sure these towers are open to the public?" Ellis finally spoke up from the back seat, scrolling through something on his phone. "Says here some of them were decommissioned years ago. Military installations, originally. That's what makes them interesting," I replied, perhaps too quickly. The truth was I'd done minimal research. The blog post I'd read had mentioned permits being unnecessary for the more remote towers. Besides, the one we're heading to first, Pu'u Kapele, is supposed to be the most accessible. We can always bail if it doesn't work out. The deeper we drove into the island's interior, the more the landscape seemed to change. The lush tropical vegetation gave way to stunted trees twisted into unnatural shapes, their branches reaching out like gnarled fingers. The vibrant colors that had greeted us at the airport faded into muted grays and browns. I blamed it on the approaching dusk, but something about the shift felt deliberate, as if the island itself was transforming around us. Our cell service disappeared about an hour in. Naomi made a joke about digital detox, but I could see the tension in her smile. The road narrowed until it was barely more than a dirt track, forcing Vance to slow to a crawl. Rocks clattered against the undercarriage of the Jeep. The GPS had stopped updating miles back, leaving us reliant on the paper map I'd printed as a backup. According to my calculations, we were close. The lookout tower appeared suddenly through a break in the trees, a skeletal silhouette against the darkening sky. Built during World War II to scan the horizons for Japanese aircraft, it now stood as a silent sentinel over the wild landscape. The wooden structure had weathered decades of tropical storms, its once straight lines now warped and sagging. As we pulled into the small clearing at its base, I noticed strange symbols carved into the support beams, crude geometric patterns that didn't match any Hawaiian petroglyphs I'd seen in my guidebook. "Well, this is thoroughly creepy," Naomi muttered, stepping out of the Jeep and stretching her legs. Perfect for those atmospheric shots I was hoping to get. She snapped a few pictures of the tower with her expensive camera, the flash momentarily illuminating the dense foliage surrounding us. Later, when we looked at those photos, we would notice something we missed in that moment. A face peering out from between the trees, watching our arrival with hollow eyes. But for now, we were simply tired travelers, unloading our gear as night descended over the Hawaiian wilderness, blissfully unaware that we were being observed. Morning broke with an unsettling silence. No birdsong, no rustling leaves, just a heavy stillness that pressed against my eardrums. I crawled out of my tent to find a thick mist hugging the ground, obscuring everything beyond a 20-foot radius. The lookout tower loomed above us, its observation deck lost in the fog. Vance was already up, hunched over our portable stove attempting to brew coffee. "Sleep okay?" he asked, not looking up from his task. I noticed dark circles under his eyes and a slight tremor in his hands. "Not really," I admitted. "Kept hearing things. Voices, maybe. Thought it might be locals passing through. But..." I trailed off, not wanting to sound paranoid on our first full day. "Yeah, Naomi heard them too. She wanted to investigate, but I talked her out of it." He handed me a steaming mug. "Probably just the wind playing tricks. This place is a natural amphitheater." After breakfast, we decided to climb the tower for a better view of our surroundings. The wooden stairs creaked ominously under our weight, and twice I felt a step give slightly beneath my foot. The observation deck was smaller than it appeared from below, maybe 15 feet square, enclosed by railings that had seen better days. Despite the clearing fog, visibility remained poor. The landscape below resembled a green ocean, waves of vegetation stretching to the horizon, broken occasionally by jagged rock formations. Ellis pointed to a dark smudge in the distance. "What's that structure over there? Doesn't look like another tower." I consulted my map, tracing our route with my finger. "There shouldn't be anything out there. This tower is the only marked landmark for miles." "Well, something's there," Naomi said, adjusting her camera lens for a better look. "And I think, are those lights?" A chill ran down my spine despite the humid air. The distant structure did appear to have faint, pulsing lights, barely visible through the lingering haze. We agreed to hike toward it after securing our campsite. In retrospect, that decision sealed our fate. As we descended the tower, I noticed more of the strange carvings I'd spotted the night before. They appeared fresher higher up, the cuts into the wood still bearing traces of sap. Some resembled crude human figures with elongated limbs and misshapen heads. Others were more abstract, spirals and angles that seemed to vibrate with meaning just beyond comprehension. I ran my fingers over one and quickly pulled back, surprised by its unnatural warmth. "Guys, has anyone touched these markings?" I called out to the others, who had already reached the ground. "Don't mess with that stuff," Ellis replied sharply. "Local superstitions are no joke. My ex was Hawaiian, said some places here are kapu. Forbidden. Maybe this is one of them." The hike toward the mysterious structure began uneventfully enough. We followed what appeared to be a game trail through the dense underbrush, marking our path with bright orange surveyor's tape. About a mile in, Vance spotted something metallic glinting in the dirt. He brushed away the accumulated debris to reveal a small tag, similar to a military dog tag, but with unfamiliar markings. 1953, he read from the corner of the tag, and some kind of serial number. He pocketed it despite Ellis's protests about disturbing artifacts. The vegetation gradually changed as we pressed forward. The familiar tropical plants gave way to species I didn't recognize, strange, pale fungi that seemed to pulse when touched, and vines with an almost flesh-like texture. The air grew heavier, filled with spores that made my throat itch. Naomi started coughing first, a dry hack that worsened with each step. "Maybe we should head back," I suggested, increasingly uneasy about our surroundings. "We can try again tomorrow with better gear." But something in the distance caught Vance's attention, a flash of movement at the tree line ahead. "Someone's watching us," he whispered, pointing. We all froze, straining to see through the foliage. That's when we heard it, a sound that still echoes in my nightmares. Not animal, not quite human. A long, undulating cry that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Ellis grabbed his sister's arm, his face drained of color. "We need to go back. Now." Turning around, my heart sank. The forest behind us looked completely different, denser, darker, with no sign of our bright markers. Somehow, impossibly, our path had vanished. We were lost, with the mysterious structure still hidden in the distance, and something in the forest aware of our presence. And the sun, I realized with mounting horror, was already beginning its descent toward the horizon. Night fell with unnatural speed, as if someone had thrown a switch. One moment we were making our way through the twilight murk, and the next we were plunged into a darkness so complete I couldn't see my hand in front of my face. Our flashlights carved pathetic cones through the black, their beams seemingly absorbed rather than reflected by our surroundings. "We need to stay together," I said, trying to keep the panic from my voice. We formed a human chain, hands gripping wrists, as we tried to navigate back in the direction we thought would lead to our campsite. The forest floor had become treacherous. What had been solid ground now felt spongy and unstable beneath our feet. The first real sign that something was terribly wrong came when Ellis's flashlight illuminated a tree directly in our path. Unlike the others we'd passed, this one had what appeared to be faces pressed into its bark, dozens of them, contorted in expressions of agony, as if living people had somehow been absorbed into the wood. Naomi let out a strangled cry and stumbled backward, nearly pulling us all down. "Those aren't real," Vance insisted, though his voice quavered. "Probably some kind of fungal growth that just looks like faces. Pareidolia, right?" But as we inched closer, one of the faces, that of a young woman with long hair, seemed to follow us with its eyes. Its lips moved silently, forming words I couldn't decipher but somehow understood were a warning. We changed direction, moving perpendicular to the face tree, only to find ourselves in a clearing we hadn't seen before. At its center stood what looked like an altar made of volcanic rock, slick with something dark that glistened in our flashlight beams. Arranged in a perfect circle around it were small bundles of twigs and bones tied with human hair. "This is a heiau," Ellis whispered. "A Hawaiian temple, but not the kind tourists visit. This is old magic, old religion." "How far did we walk?" Naomi's voice had taken on a hysterical edge. "We couldn't have gone more than a couple miles from the tower. There's nothing like this on any map." A sound from the darkness stopped our conversation cold, the crack of a branch under weight, followed by labored breathing that wasn't coming from any of us. Our lights swung wildly, searching for the source. For a brief, terrifying moment, my beam caught a figure at the tree line, tall and emaciated, its skin gray and mottled, head tilted at an impossible angle as it observed us with eyes that reflected our light like a nocturnal animal's. "Run!" I screamed, all thoughts of staying together forgotten in the rush of primal fear. We scattered in different directions like startled deer. I sprinted blindly through the undergrowth, branches whipping my face, roots threatening to trip me with every step. Behind me, I heard Naomi scream, a sound cut short with disturbing abruptness. I found myself alone in another clearing, lungs burning, legs trembling with exertion. My flashlight, remarkably still in my grasp, revealed I was at the base of another structure. Not our lookout tower, but something similar, yet fundamentally wrong. Its proportions were off, its angles seeming to bend in ways that hurt my eyes to look at directly. And it wasn't made of wood, but some black stone that seemed to absorb both light and sound. Movement from above caught my attention. Looking up, I saw someone, or something, peering down from the observation deck. The silhouette was human-shaped, but moved with jerky, insect-like motions. I killed my light immediately and pressed myself against the base of the tower, praying whatever it was hadn't spotted me. The sound of footsteps reached me, not from above, but from the forest edge. Vance emerged, wild-eyed and bleeding from a gash on his forehead. "Ellis is gone," he gasped. "Just vanished." 1 second he was right behind me, the next. He made a helpless gesture. "What about Naomi?" I asked, though something in me already knew the answer. I heard her scream. I tried to go back, but he slumped against the tower next to me, his breath coming in ragged sobs. "What the fuck is happening, Declan? Where are we?" I had no answers, only a growing certainty that we had stumbled into something ancient and malevolent. The island had drawn us in, separated us, and was now hunting us one by one. And as if to confirm my thoughts, a chorus of those inhuman cries rose from the forest around us. Closer now, coordinated, moving with purpose toward our position. "We need to climb," I said, pulling Vance to his feet. "It's our only chance." The tower's ladder was slick with the same dark substance we'd seen on the altar, making each rung a treacherous challenge. We were halfway up when the first of our pursuers emerged from the tree line below. The same gray-skinned figure I'd glimpsed earlier, but now I could see it clearly. What I had taken for mottled skin was actually a network of those same symbols we'd seen carved on our lookout tower, but here they were raised like scar tissue across its emaciated form. Its face was blank except for those reflective eyes and a mouth that hung open too wide, revealing rows of needle-like teeth. And it wasn't alone. The observation platform of this nightmarish tower offered no sanctuary. Unlike the open deck of our lookout point, This one was enclosed, a claustrophobic chamber with narrow slits instead of windows. The interior walls were covered in the same symbols we'd seen throughout our ordeal, but here they moved, rearranging themselves when viewed from the corner of the eye. "They're coming up after us," Vance hissed, peering down through a crack in the floor. The gray figures had begun their ascent, their bony limbs finding purchase on the ladder with unnatural grace. I frantically searched for anything we could use as a weapon, finding only a corroded metal box tucked in one corner. Inside was a leather-bound journal, its pages brittle with age, and next to it, a flare gun with a single flare. I grabbed both, tossing the gun to Vance. "Last resort," I told him, quickly flipping through the journal. The handwriting was cramped and increasingly erratic, but I could make out dates from 1953, matching the tag Vance had found, and references to the experiment and dimensional thinning. The final entry simply read, "They're coming through. God help us all." A gray hand slapped against one of the window slits, elongated fingers curling around the edge. Vance fired the flare without hesitation, hitting the creature directly. Instead of burning, it seemed to absorb the phosphorescent material, its body briefly glowing from within as it let out a screech that shattered one of the glass panes. The journal mentions another tower, a control point. I shouted over the cacophony of inhuman shrieks. "I think it's our original lookout. If we can get back there." "How?" Vance demanded, gesturing at the creatures now swarming up every side of the structure. "We're surrounded." A section of the floor suddenly gave way as one of the creatures punched through from below, its arm elongating impossibly as it groped blindly for us. We pressed ourselves against the far wall, but there was nowhere left to retreat. That's when I noticed a trapdoor in the ceiling, barely visible in the dim light, but definitely there. Without a word, I boosted Vance up toward it. His fingers scrabbled at the edges, finally finding the release mechanism. The door swung down, nearly hitting me as a rush of cool night air filled the chamber. "Roof access." Vance pulled himself up and through the opening, then reached back to help me. I was halfway out when something clamped around my ankle, cold fingers with too many joints digging into my flesh. I kicked wildly, connecting with something that yielded with a sickening softness. The grip loosened just enough for me to scramble onto the roof. We found ourselves on a small platform with a spire rising from its center. The night sky above was wrong, stars arranged in unfamiliar constellations, and what looked like multiple moons casting conflicting shadows across the landscape. But most disturbing was the view of the terrain below. What had been dense forest was now a vast expanse of the same black stone as the tower, stretching to the horizon in all directions. And dotting this alien landscape were more towers, dozens of them, each pulsing with sickly light. "This isn't Hawaii anymore," Vance whispered. "I don't think this is even Earth." A high-pitched whine filled the air, and the spire beside us began to rotate, its tip glowing with increasing intensity. The light it emitted seemed to cut through reality itself, creating a visible tear in the space before us, a window through which we could see our original lookout tower, exactly as we'd left it. "That's our way home," I said, though home now seemed like a tenuous concept. "We have to jump." The tear was maybe 15 feet away across open roof, with a drop on all sides into darkness where the gray creatures still swarmed. We'd have one chance, a running leap into the unknown. "Together," Vance nodded, gripping my hand. We counted to 3 and sprinted forward just as the trapdoor behind us burst open. I felt something slash across my back as we launched ourselves into the air. For a heart-stopping moment, we were suspended between worlds, neither here nor there. Then we crashed onto solid wooden planks, the observation deck of our original tower. The tear in space snapped closed behind us with an audible pop, cutting off the unearthly howls of our pursuers. We lay there, gasping, unable to believe we'd made it. Dawn was breaking over the Hawaiian landscape, the real one, with its lush vegetation and distant ocean view. We'd been gone less than 12 hours, though it had felt like days. Shakily, we made our way down to our campsite, finding everything exactly as we'd left it. But there was no sign of Ellis or Naomi. "We have to find them," Vance insisted, voice cracking with emotion. "They could be stuck in whatever that place was." I didn't have the heart to tell him what I suspected, that Ellis and Naomi were gone in a way that defied rescue. Instead, I nodded and began gathering supplies for another journey, one I knew would likely be our last. But I couldn't abandon them, not without trying. And deep down, I knew we couldn't escape what we'd started. The towers were connected, the boundaries between worlds compromised. Something was coming through, and we had inadvertently shown it the way. The search and rescue team found me 3 days later, delirious from dehydration and exposure, crawling along the access road nearly 5 miles from our campsite. I was alone. Of Vance, Naomi, and Ellis, there was no sign. Just 3 sets of empty tents and their untouched belongings. The authorities assumed they'd gotten lost hiking, perhaps fallen from one of the many treacherous cliffs in the area. They conducted a thorough search that turned up nothing except, oddly, dozens of the same orange surveyor's tape we'd used, tied to trees in a complex pattern that one officer said reminded him of circuitry diagrams. I spent 2 weeks in a Kauai hospital, first for physical recovery and then under psychiatric observation. I told my story repeatedly, to police, park rangers, and eventually a stone-faced military officer who asked specifically about the journal I claimed to have found. Of course, I no longer had it. Everything from that night had vanished along with my friends. The official consensus was trauma-induced hallucination. A head injury explained the memory gaps, they said. The strange symbols I kept drawing compulsively? A manifestation of PTSD. They released me when I learned to lie convincingly, nodding along with their rational explanations while secretly knowing the truth. I returned to Portland fundamentally changed, unable to resume my former life. My architectural work, once praised for innovation, now drew concerned looks from colleagues. Without realizing it, I had begun incorporating those same symbols into my designs, subtle at first, then increasingly overt until my supervisor finally placed me on mandatory leave. I became obsessed with finding ways back to that other place, convinced that Vance, Naomi, and Ellis might somehow still be alive. My apartment walls disappeared beneath maps and diagrams. I tracked down similar incidents across Hawaii's history. Hikers gone missing near unusual structures, reports of wrong vegetation, distorted animal cries in the night. Patterns emerged. Connections formed. The lookout towers were only the most recent manifestations of something that had existed on the islands for centuries. 6 months after our trip, a package arrived at my door with no return address. Inside was the leather journal I'd found in the tower, though now the pages were filled with new writing, Naomi's distinctive hand. The entries documented their continued existence in that other realm, describing horrors I can barely comprehend. But most disturbing was her final message, addressed directly to me. They're using the towers to come through, Declan. Not just to Hawaii, but everywhere. The symbols are coordinates. You've been spreading them through your work without knowing it. Stop. Burn this journal. Forget us. It's too late anyway. That night, I woke to find my bedroom window open, though I distinctly remembered locking it. On the floor beneath it was a small puddle of viscous black liquid, and on my ceiling, just barely visible in the darkness, one of the symbols had been drawn, still wet, dripping slowly onto my bed. I fled Portland the next morning, destroying my research and architectural drawings before I left. I've been moving ever since, never staying in one place long enough to put down roots. But I know it's a temporary solution. Sometimes I catch glimpses of them from the corner of my eye, gray figures watching from impossible angles in broad daylight. The boundaries are thinning everywhere now. Last week, I saw a news report about a new observation tower being constructed in Olympic National Park, a perfect replica of historic fire lookouts, but with innovative architectural elements. The brief footage showed familiar symbols incorporated into the support beams, disguised as decorative elements. The designer's name wasn't mentioned, but I recognized the style. It couldn't be. Vance had no architectural training, and yet the evidence was unmistakable. Yesterday, I received a text from an unknown number, coordinates followed by a time. The location is deep within Olympic National Park, not far from the new tower. The rational part of me knows it's a trap. Whatever came back wearing Vance's identity isn't my friend anymore. It's bait, designed to lure me back into their world, or, worse, to help them establish a stronger foothold in ours. But I'm going anyway. I've acquired weapons that probably won't help and ancient protective symbols that likely won't work. I don't expect to survive this final journey. At best, I might slow their incursion, buy the world a little more time before the full invasion begins. At worst, I'll join my friends in whatever twisted existence they now endure. If you're reading this, it means my failsafe worked. My account has been automatically published. Consider it both confession and warning. Those lookout towers aren't what they seem. The boundaries between worlds are fragile and growing more so every day. And if you ever find yourself in Hawaii, staring up at an old wooden structure against the sky, turn around. Drive away. Never look back. My name is Amara Kanahele, 29 years old, born and raised in Chicago, but with Hawaiian roots I've barely explored. When my company offered me a 6-month assignment in Honolulu, it felt like fate calling me back to my ancestral home. I'd been working as an environmental scientist for 5 years, and this project, monitoring air quality around active volcanic sites, was a career-defining opportunity. What better way to connect with my heritage than to study the very forces that created these islands? I didn't know a soul in Hawaii, but that changed quickly when I met Kai during my first week. He worked as a cultural liaison for the conservation department and offered to show me around the island of Oahu. We hit it off immediately, and when he mentioned a network of rarely visited lookout towers perfect for overnight camping and stargazing, I was intrigued. Most tourists never see this side of Hawaii, he explained. These towers were built to spot fires, but some are older, sacred places where ancient Hawaiians would communicate with the gods. Kai suggested we make it a group excursion and introduced me to his cousin Leilani, a soft-spoken botanist, and her husband Marcus, a mainlander like me who taught history at the local community college. What was supposed to be a simple weekend adventure transformed into something else entirely when Kai mentioned offhandedly that one particular tower, Kapuakilo on the northwestern slope of the Kolau Mountains, was rumored to have unusual properties. Time moves differently there, he said with an enigmatic smile that I couldn't quite read. At least that's what the old stories say. We set out early on a Saturday morning. The 4 of us crammed into Kai's weathered Jeep Wrangler along with enough camping supplies for 2 nights. The drive took us away from Honolulu's tourist hubs and into increasingly remote territory. As we climbed higher into the mountains, the lush vegetation closed in around the narrow dirt road. Cell service disappeared about an hour in, and the comfortable banter that had filled the car gradually died away, replaced by an expectant silence as we all took in the primeval beauty surrounding us. My grandmother used to warn me about this place, Leilani said suddenly, breaking the quiet. She said the old gods still walk these ridges, that they get angry when people disturb their rest. She spoke lightly, but I noticed how her fingers twisted nervously in her lap. Marcus put a reassuring hand on her shoulder, though I caught the skeptical look he exchanged with Kai in the rearview mirror. The road ended abruptly at a small clearing, forcing us to continue on foot. We shouldered our packs and followed a barely visible trail that wound through dense foliage. The humidity was oppressive, my shirt sticking to my back within minutes. Strange bird calls echoed through the canopy overhead, not the cheerful chirping I'd heard in more tourist-friendly areas, but eerie, sustained notes that seemed to follow our progress. Night birds, Kai explained when I asked. They're not supposed to call during the day. The casual way he said it, without meeting my eyes, made my skin prickle. The lookout tower appeared suddenly as we crested a ridge, a stark wooden structure rising above the treeline, weathered gray by years of exposure. Unlike the fire towers I'd seen in national parks on the mainland, this one had unusual architectural elements, intricate carvings along its support beams, and a curiously asymmetrical observation deck. It's older than it looks, Kai said, noting my interest. The original structure dates back centuries. The Rangers just maintain the modern additions. As we approached, I felt a subtle shift in the air, not just temperature or humidity, but something more fundamental. Colors seemed sharper, sounds more distinct. I attributed it to fatigue from the hike, but later wondered if that was when I first crossed some invisible boundary. Marcus was already taking photographs with his expensive camera, while Leilani hung back, her expression uneasy as she gazed up at the tower. "We should make an offering," she said quietly, "before we set up camp." Kai nodded and produced a small bundle of ti leaves and white ginger flowers from his pack. He spoke a few words in Hawaiian that I didn't understand, then placed the offering at the base of the tower. Only then did we begin setting up our tents in the small clearing. As the sun began its descent behind the mountains, casting long shadows through the trees, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched, not with hostility, but with a detached curiosity that was somehow more disturbing. When I mentioned it to the others around our small campfire that evening, Marcus laughed it off, but Kai remained silent, his eyes reflecting the dancing flames as he stared into the gathering darkness beyond our circle of light. I woke before dawn to the sound of rain pattering gently on my tent. My watch read 5:17 a.m., but the quality of light filtering through the nylon suggested it was later. Unzipping the tent flap, I discovered why. A dense fog had enveloped our campsite, so thick it obscured everything beyond a few feet. The neighboring tents appeared as vague humps in the mist, and the tower was completely invisible despite being less than 30 yards away. Coffee seemed like the most pressing need, so I set up the portable stove and started heating water. The familiar routine helped ground me in what felt like an increasingly surreal environment. The fog muffled all sound, creating an eerie pocket of silence broken only by the occasional drip of condensation from the trees above. I was stirring the instant coffee when Kai emerged from his tent, hair disheveled but eyes alert. "You feel it too, don't you?" he asked without preamble, accepting the steaming cup I offered. "Feel what?" I asked, though I already knew what he meant. "The watchfulness. This place is aware of us." He spoke matter-of-factly, as if discussing the weather. "My grandmother used to say certain locations in Hawaii retain memory, ancestral energy that accumulates over generations." I wanted to dismiss his words as local superstition, but something stopped me. Maybe it was the unnatural stillness of the fog, or the way the air seemed to carry an electric charge, like the moment before lightning strikes. Whatever scientific explanation might exist, I couldn't deny that something felt off about our surroundings. Leilani and Marcus joined us soon after, both looking like they'd slept poorly. Over a breakfast of granola bars and fruit, we debated our plans for the day. The fog showed no signs of lifting, making the original itinerary of hiking to neighboring ridges seem unwise. "We should explore the tower," Marcus suggested, his historian's curiosity evident. "I'd love to document those carvings more thoroughly. Some of the symbols don't match any Hawaiian petroglyphs I've studied." Leilani shot him a warning glance. "We shouldn't disturb anything inside. Not without proper protocol. It's a Forestry Service lookout," Marcus countered. "Not a heiau. Besides, we made an offering yesterday, right?" The tension between them was palpable, and I found myself siding with Leilani's caution. Something about the tower's silhouette through the occasional breaks in the fog unsettled me. Angles that seemed subtly wrong, as if the structure defied conventional geometry. But before we could settle the debate, a sound cut through the silence. A long, keening note that might have been a bird call, but carried too much deliberate modulation. "What was that?" I asked, turning toward the source. "Probably just an io," Kai said, referring to the Hawaiian hawk. But his tense posture belied his casual explanation. Marcus was already grabbing his camera. "I'm going to check it out." "We should stick together," Kai cautioned, but Marcus was already disappearing into the fog in the direction of the sound. With a sigh, Kai stood and gestured for us to follow. "Never let the haole go wandering alone," he muttered, using the Hawaiian term for outsiders with a mix of affection and exasperation. We found Marcus standing at the base of the tower, his camera forgotten at his side as he stared up at the structure. From this angle, with the fog swirling around its upper reaches, the tower seemed impossibly tall, far higher than it had appeared the previous day. "Did we make a wrong turn?" I asked, disoriented by the changed perspective. "No," Kai said slowly. "It's the same tower, just different now." The wooden steps leading up to the first platform were slick with moisture, forcing us to ascend carefully. I noticed more of the unusual carvings as we climbed, spiraling patterns interspersed with what looked like human figures in various poses of supplication or agony. Some appeared freshly cut into the aged wood, the edges sharp and clean. Others were weathered almost to invisibility. The observation deck was a single room enclosed by glass on all sides, sparsely furnished with a wooden table, a logbook anchored to it with a chain, and what appeared to be a ham radio setup in one corner. Marcus immediately went to the logbook while Leilani examined the strange plants growing in pots along the windowsill. species I didn't recognize despite my scientific background. This doesn't make sense, Marcus said, flipping through the logbook. The last entry is dated 1987, but the Forestry Service website said this tower was actively staffed until 2006. Maybe they kept a different log, I suggested, though something told me the discrepancy wasn't so easily explained. Kai had been unusually quiet since we entered the tower. Now he stood by the eastern window, gazing out into the fog. "Look," he said softly. "It's clearing." We joined him at the window. He was right. The fog was dissipating rapidly, revealing the landscape below. But it wasn't the same dense jungle we'd hiked through yesterday. Instead, we saw vast stretches of barren lava fields interspersed with patches of pioneering vegetation, the kind of terrain found on the Big Island near active volcanic sites. Not here on Oahu, where the volcanoes had been dormant for millennia. "That's impossible," I whispered, my scientific mind racing to find a rational explanation. "We couldn't have traveled that far overnight." "I don't think we traveled anywhere," Kai replied, his voice strangely calm. "I think the tower did." Before I could process this bewildering statement, a movement in the distance caught my eye. A lone figure walking across the lava field, heading directly toward the tower. The distance was too great to make out details, but something about the figure's gait seemed wrong. Too fluid, joints bending in directions human anatomy wouldn't allow. "We need to go," Leilani said urgently, backing away from the window. "Now." But when we turned toward the stairs, we found our descent blocked. Where the staircase should have been was now a solid wall of the same weathered wood as the rest of the tower. We were trapped in the observation deck with no way down, and something inhuman was approaching across the impossible landscape below. Time behaved strangely in the tower. The sun, which should have tracked across the sky in a predictable arc, instead seemed to jump positions when I wasn't looking directly at it. One moment it hung low on the eastern horizon, and the next it had shifted to directly overhead without the gradual transition I would expect. The shadows inside the observation deck changed accordingly, creating a disorienting strobe effect that left me nauseated and disoriented. Marcus had moved from confusion to anger, repeatedly slamming his shoulder against the wall where the staircase had been. "This isn't happening," he grunted between impacts. "It's some kind of mass hallucination or gas leak." "Stop it," Leilani hissed, grabbing his arm. "You'll attract attention." We all knew what she meant. The figure we'd spotted crossing the lava field was now close enough to make out details, and those details defied rational explanation. It had the general shape of a human, but moved with a boneless grace that suggested something else entirely. Its skin, visible even at this distance, had the iridescent quality of oil on water, shifting colors with each movement. Kai had maintained his composure better than the rest of us, methodically checking the room for anything useful. The ham radio, when he tried it, emitted only a wash of static punctuated by what sounded disturbingly like whispers in a language none of us recognized. The logbook, which Marcus had dismissed initially, proved more enlightening upon closer inspection. The entries, though apparently written by different people over decades, contained recurring themes, references to shifting topographies, temporal inconsistencies, and most alarmingly, the Watchers. "Listen to this," Kai said, reading from an entry dated October 1976. "Third day of displacement. Tower now overlooks active flow from Mauna Loa. Previous landscape configurations included prehistoric rainforest, EST pre-human settlement, and what appeared to be future state, structures unknown, vegetation altered. The Watchers maintain distance but grow more numerous. Supplies dwindling. No response on radio." A chill ran through me despite the stuffy air in the observation deck. "They were trapped here too," I whispered. "Like us." "They were reporting on it," Kai corrected, his finger tracing the neat rows of handwriting. "Like scientists. Or explorers. Did any of them get out?" Marcus asked, finally abandoning his futile assault on the wall. Kai flipped to the final pages. "The last entry says only, they're coming inside. Remember Protocol 7. He looked up at us, brow furrowed. Nothing after that. A sudden crack drew our attention to the windows. The figure had reached the base of the tower and was now climbing, not using the non-existent stairs, but moving up the vertical surface with terrible ease, its limbs elongating and contracting in a way that made my eyes hurt to watch. As it climbed, its form seemed to blur and refocus, as if my brain couldn't quite process what I was seeing. "What is it?" I asked, voice barely above a whisper. "In Hawaiian tradition, they're called kupua," Leilani answered, her academic knowledge providing a framework for the impossible. "Shapeshifters that can take human or animal form. But they're just stories. Myths. Tell that to whatever's climbing up here," Marcus muttered. The creature had nearly reached our level, its face, if you could call it that, now visible through the glass. Where features should have been was instead a constantly shifting arrangement of shadows and light, forming and dissolving in patterns that almost coalesced into recognizable expressions before dissolving again. Only the eyes remained constant, two deep voids that somehow conveyed an ancient intelligence observing us with cold curiosity. As we watched in horror, it pressed what approximated a hand against the glass. The window didn't break, but instead seemed to soften, becoming permeable. The creature's limb began to push through as if the solid barrier was nothing more than thick liquid. "The logbook," Kai suddenly exclaimed. "Protocol 7, it must be in here somewhere." He frantically scanned the pages we hadn't yet examined, finally stopping at a page that had been partially torn out. "Here, it mentions using the towers as transit points. The carvings are a navigation system." "Great," Marcus said, voice tight with panic as he backed away from the window where the creature was now halfway through. "How exactly does that help us?" Kai pointed to the strange patterns carved into the wooden beams that supported the room. "These aren't just decorative. They're coordinates, a way to direct the tower's movement between locations." His fingers traced a particular sequence that spiraled around one beam. "This one might represent Oahu, our original location." The creature was nearly inside now, its impossible body contorting as it pulled itself through the window that should have been too small to accommodate it. The air in the room grew heavy and electric, making it difficult to breathe. My vision blurred at the edges, darkness creeping in like a physical presence. "How do we activate it?" I gasped, fighting to stay conscious. "Blood," Leilani said suddenly, pulling a small knife from her pocket. "Many Hawaiian rituals require blood offering. Not human sacrifice, just a token." Before anyone could stop her, she drew the blade across her palm and pressed her bleeding hand against the carved spiral. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. The creature paused its entry, head tilting as if sensing a change. Then the entire tower began to vibrate, a low hum building in intensity until it rattled my teeth. The scene outside the windows blurred, landscapes flowing into one another like watercolors in rain. Barren lava fields giving way to dense jungle, then concrete buildings, then ocean, then configurations of land and sky I had no context for. The creature let out a sound unlike anything I'd ever heard. Part scream, part song, wholly alien, and began to retreat back through the window. But it was too late. Reality was already shifting around us, the tower pulling free from whatever anchors had held it in that impossible place. The transition, when it came, hit like a physical blow. One moment we were trapped in that nightmare observation deck with a creature from Hawaiian mythology forcing its way inside. The next, we were sprawled on solid ground, the tower nowhere in sight. Instead, we found ourselves on a beach I didn't recognize, waves lapping gently at the shore less than 20 feet away. We were back on Oahu, or at least somewhere in Hawaii. But as I looked around at my companions' shell-shocked faces, I realized our ordeal was far from over. Because standing at the water's edge, watching us with that same detached curiosity, was another figure, human in appearance but with eyes that reflected wrongly in the moonlight. And beyond it, emerging from the waves, were more. The tower had brought us back, but not alone. We had opened a door, and now the watchers were coming through. "Don't make eye contact," Kai hissed, pulling me to my feet. "And whatever you do, don't let them touch you." The beach stretched in both directions, offering no immediate shelter or escape route. Behind us, a steep cliff face blocked retreat inland. The figures emerging from the ocean, I couldn't bring myself to call them people despite their human appearance, moved with that same unnatural grace we'd witnessed at the tower. Water streamed from their bodies but somehow left them dry, as if they existed adjacent to rather than within our physical reality. "What's the plan?" Marcus asked, his earlier skepticism replaced by grim acceptance of our situation. The lookout towers were built as a network, Kai explained as we began moving laterally along the beach, putting distance between ourselves and the emerging watchers. Not just for fire spotting, but to monitor places where the boundary between worlds is thin. My grandfather was one of the monitors before the program was officially shut down. So there are more towers? I asked, hope flaring briefly. We could use another one to what? Send them back. Theoretically, Kai nodded. But I have no idea where we are or how far to the nearest tower. I pulled out my phone, unsurprised to find no signal. What did surprise me was the date displayed on the screen, November 7th. We'd entered the tower on September 15th. Nearly 2 months had passed in what had felt like hours to us. We need to find someone, Leilani said, scanning the deserted beach. A phone, a car, something. As if in answer to her words, headlights appeared around a distant bend in the coastline. A vehicle traveling along what appeared to be a road that paralleled the beach. Without discussion, we changed direction, moving toward it at a run. Behind us, the watchers altered their course with fluid precision, maintaining the same distance. They're hurting us, Marcus panted as we ran. We're following the same destination, Kai replied grimly. The approaching vehicle turned out to be a rusted pickup truck driven by an elderly Hawaiian man. He slowed as he spotted us waving frantically on the roadside, his weathered face creasing with concern. You folks okay? He called through the open window. Then his gaze shifted past us to the beach where the watchers moved in eerie synchronization. His expression changed instantly from concern to terror. Get in, he shouted, reaching across to push open the passenger door. Now, we piled into the truck, Kai in front, the rest of us crammed into the truck bed, and the old man floored the accelerator before we'd even fully settled. The sudden acceleration nearly threw me over the tailgate, but Leilani grabbed my shirt, anchoring me. What are they? I shouted over the wind as the truck hurtled down the coastal road. Bad news. The old man called back through the open rear window. Very bad news. They haven't been this active since the '82 eruption. We drove for nearly an hour, the landscape gradually shifting from remote coastline to more populated areas. Signs indicated we were on the Big Island, specifically the Kona coast, nearly 200 miles from where our camping trip had begun. The old man, who introduced himself as Keone, seemed to know exactly where to take us. He bypassed the main highways, sticking to secondary roads that wound through coffee plantations and small residential neighborhoods. My cousin was a monitor, he explained as we finally pulled up to a modest house perched on a hillside overlooking the ocean. Like your friend's grandfather. She told me what to do if they ever came back in numbers. Inside the house, which smelled of plumeria and old books, Keone's wife might greeted us with a calm that suggested she'd been expecting visitors. Without asking questions, she provided us with fresh clothes, food, and, most precious of all, information. The network is still active, even if the government doesn't maintain it officially anymore, she explained, spreading a well-worn map across the kitchen table. X marks dotted the islands, concentrated around volcanic areas and certain coastal regions. These are the fixed points, places where the towers can manifest. Manifest, I repeated, still struggling with the implications. The towers exist in multiple places simultaneously, Mai said, as if this were perfectly normal. Or perhaps it's more accurate to say they exist between places, anchored at these fixed points, but capable of shifting their connection points based on need or invitation. Her eyes lingered on Leilani's bandaged hand. The cut she'd made to activate the tower's transportation function had stopped bleeding, but left an angry red line across her palm. So how do we send them back? Marcus asked, cutting to the essential question. Mai and Keone exchanged a look loaded with unspoken communication. Finally, Keone sighed heavily. The traditional way requires a guardian to remain behind, to close the door from the other side. A heavy silence fell over the room as we absorbed this information. Self-sacrifice wasn't on anyone's agenda when we'd set out for a simple camping trip. There might be another way, Mai said hesitantly. The old stories speak of Ka Pae Hail, the sealing of the house, a ritual that could close all doors simultaneously, but at great cost. What kind of cost? I asked. It would destroy all the towers, she replied. Break the network permanently. And there's no guarantee it would work after so many have already come through. A notification sound from my phone interrupted the conversation. Surprisingly, I now had service. The screen displayed dozens of missed calls and texts, most from my worried colleagues who'd reported me missing weeks ago. But most disturbing was a news alert. Unusual atmospheric phenomena reported across Hawaiian Islands. Scientists baffled by localized aurora-like effects. I showed the others. They're not just following us anymore. They're spreading. Kai's expression hardened into resolve. Then we need to move quickly. Where's the nearest tower access point? I pointed to an X on the map barely 10 miles from our current location. Hualalai. There's an old volcanic observatory that serves as an anchor point. But, she hesitated, it's directly over a known thin spot. If anything goes wrong, more of them could come through, Leilani finished. Or worse, Keone added quietly. We spent the night at their house, though sleep eluded me. From the second-floor window, I could see strange lights playing across the distant ocean. Colors that didn't belong in nature moving in patterns too deliberate to be random. By morning, news reports were showing similar phenomena across all the Hawaiian Islands. Scientific explanations ranged from unusual solar activity to underwater volcanic disruptions affecting the atmosphere. But we knew the truth. Keone lent us his truck and gave precise directions to the observatory, along with a small wooden box containing items for the ritual. Ti leaves, salt, a stone adze that looked centuries old, and a vial of reddish liquid I decided not to ask about. As we prepared to leave, I pressed something into my hand, a small pendant carved from dense black stone. Protection, she said simply. From the older gods, who were here before the Watchers. The drive to Hualai took us up winding roads increasingly covered in a strange, ash-like substance that wasn't volcanic in origin. It clung to the truck's tires and drifted through the air like pollen, covering every surface with a fine iridescent powder. The same substance we'd seen on the Watcher's skin. The observatory, when we finally reached it, was a deteriorating concrete structure with a collapsed dome. No tower was visible, but I could feel something about the location, a heaviness in the air, a quality of light that seemed subtly wrong. We parked the truck and approached cautiously, the box of ritual items clutched tightly in Kai's hands. How do we call the tower? Marcus asked, voicing the question we'd all been wondering. We don't need to, Leilani replied softly, pointing. Where there had been empty space between two sections of the ruined observatory, a familiar wooden structure now stood, the lookout tower, or one identical to it. And standing before it, as if waiting for our arrival, was a figure I recognized despite having seen it only briefly through fog and fear. The first Watcher, its human disguise now perfected, but its eyes still revealing the ancient, alien intelligence behind the mask. It smiled, a gesture that didn't reach those void-like eyes, and gestured toward the tower's entrance with an elegantly human hand. Aloha, it said, the word somehow wrong in its mouth. We've been expecting you to return home. The word home lingered in the air between us, laden with implications I didn't want to consider. Home for whom? For us? Or for the entity that stood before us with its perfect human mask and empty eyes? And beyond that immediate question lurked a more disturbing one. Had we truly escaped the tower 2 months ago, or had we simply been released, set loose like probes to gather information and eventually lead the Watchers to more anchors in our world? This isn't their home, Kai said firmly, stepping forward. And you're not welcome here. The Watcher's smile didn't falter, but something shifted in its posture, subtle readjustments that reminded me its humanoid form was merely convenient packaging, not its true shape. We were here before, it replied, its voice carrying odd harmonics that made my inner ear ache. Before your kind named these islands, before you built your little perches to peer between worlds. We were the first Watchers. Leilani moved to stand beside Kai, her scientific rationality clearly at war with what she was experiencing. What do you want? To reclaim, to remember, to return. Each word seemed to carry multiple meanings, layers of communication our human minds could only partially process. Your species is so brief, so limited. You forget what these islands truly are, nodes in a vast network, doorways between realities that existed long before humans evolved awareness. As it spoke, I became aware of movement around us, more figures emerging from the deteriorating observatory structure and the surrounding vegetation. Some wore human shapes, others appeared as animals native to Hawaii, and a few defied categorization entirely, their forms in constant flux like living watercolors. The pendant Mai had given me grew warm against my skin, and with that warmth came a sudden clarity, a perspective shift that allowed me to see beyond the immediate threat to the larger pattern. The Watchers weren't simply invading. They were reclaiming territory they considered rightfully theirs. The towers, rather than being defensive outposts as we'd assumed, were more like treaties, negotiated boundaries between their reality and ours, maintained by human guardians who understood the delicate balance required. The monitors, I said slowly, pieces falling into place. They weren't just watching for fire. They were maintaining the separation. Yes, the first Watcher acknowledged. Until your government decided such roles were superstition, relics of an indigenous past best forgotten. They abandoned the towers, broke the covenant. Now the boundaries fail. A plan began forming in my mind. Not the ritual I had described, which would destroy the network entirely, but something that might restore the balance. I glanced at Kai, wondering if his grandfather had passed down more knowledge than he'd initially revealed. There's another way, I said, addressing the Watcher directly. Isn't there? A renewal of the covenant. The creature's expression remained impassive, but I sensed interest, or perhaps amusement, in its response. You offer to become guardians? To maintain the boundaries your ancestors abandoned? Not exactly, I countered, buying time as I tried to formulate a workable solution, but a new arrangement, one that acknowledges both our worlds without requiring sacrifice. Amara, Marcus hissed, what are you doing? I ignored him, keeping my focus on the Watcher. The towers are transit points, yes? They allow movement between realities. But they're unstable now because the balance is broken. The balance requires attention, the Watcher agreed. Consciousness directed toward the in-between spaces. This confirmed what I'd suspected. The monitors hadn't just been passive observers. Their focused awareness had been part of what maintained the separation between worlds. When the program was abandoned, that conscious attention disappeared, allowing the boundaries to erode gradually over decades. What if we redirected existing resources? I suggested. The observatories, weather stations, volcanic monitoring systems, all already staffed and operational across the islands. They could serve dual purposes. The Watcher tilted its head, considering. The pattern requires specific nodes. Your scientific outposts do not align with the necessary geometry. Then we adjust, I pressed, warming to the concept. Incorporate additional monitoring stations at the required points. Modern technology allows remote observation. We wouldn't need human guardians physically present at each tower. A low murmur passed through the gathered entities. Not voices, but something more primal, like the vibration of the earth itself. The first Watcher seemed to be conferring with the others in some nonverbal way. Meanwhile, Kai had moved closer to me, his expression a mixture of amazement and concern. You're negotiating with them, he whispered. How did you know this was possible? I touched the pendant beneath my shirt. I think your ancestors have been doing this for generations. The stories about Kupua and gods, they weren't just myths. They were diplomatic records. The Watcher refocused its attention on us. Your proposal has merit, but requires proof of commitment. The covenant must be sealed with more than words. I knew what it wanted, blood, like Leilani had offered to activate the tower. A symbolic sacrifice to demonstrate sincere intention. Before I could respond, Kai stepped forward. I volunteer, he said, his voice steady. My grandfather was a monitor. It's in my blood. No, Leilani protested. We all entered the tower together. We share responsibility for what's happened. One by one, we stepped forward, for humans facing creatures from beyond our reality, offering to renew a covenant that had existed for centuries before being carelessly discarded by those who no longer believed in its necessity. What followed defies easy description. The ritual involved the items Keone had provided, the TI leaves bound with our combined blood. The salt formed into precise patterns that mirrored the relationship between islands and stars. The stone adze used to mark each of us with a symbol that seemed to exist both on and beneath our skin. Throughout the process, the tower shifted and transformed, sometimes appearing as the wooden structure we'd first encountered, sometimes as something far older and more primal, a standing stone, a living tree, a column of light that connected earth and sky. The watchers participated in ways both visible and imperceptible, their forms becoming increasingly difficult to focus on as the ritual progressed. The boundary between our perceptions and what actually occurred grew indistinct. At one point, I remember looking down to see the ground beneath us transparent, revealing other landscapes layered below. Prehistoric Hawaii, future configurations I couldn't comprehend, and stranger vistas that belonged to no version of Earth I recognized. When it was over, we found ourselves alone at the ruined observatory as dawn broke over Hualalai. The tower was gone, but I could still sense its presence, not in physical form, but as a sort of dimensional thinning, a place where realities overlapped without fully merging. The watchers had retreated, but not departed entirely. They remained in the in-between spaces, watching as they always had, but now with renewed awareness of the boundaries. Our return to normal life proved more complicated than expected. 2 months of absence had consequences. Jobs lost, apartments emptied, missing persons reports filed, and investigations conducted. The authorities were skeptical of our story about getting lost while hiking, particularly given our discovery on an entirely different island with no explanation for how we'd traversed the ocean. But without evidence of criminal activity, they eventually closed the case as an unsolved mystery. The greater challenge was fulfilling our part of the covenant. Working through Keone's extensive connections in the Hawaiian cultural community, we established what appeared to outsiders as a historical preservation project focused on the lookout towers and other significant sites across the islands. Behind this public face, we built a network of observers, some aware of the true purpose, others simply monitoring equipment placed at critical locations. Modern technology allowed us to establish the necessary attention pattern without requiring permanent human presence at each site. Cameras, sensors, and regular visitation created the consciousness web needed to maintain the separation between worlds. Kai took a position with the Hawaiian Cultural Heritage Office that allowed him to integrate our monitoring network with legitimate preservation efforts. Leilani's botanical expertise proved invaluable in identifying subtle ecosystem changes that indicated boundary thinning. I never returned to Chicago. My life there seemed impossibly distant, belonging to someone else entirely. Instead, I used my environmental science background to secure a position with the monitoring network we'd established, coordinating data collection and analysis from our headquarters in Hilo. Marcus stayed too, his historical expertise helping us reconstruct the original monitoring protocols from fragmentary records. For the most part, the boundaries have held. Occasionally, sensors indicate disruptions, usually during significant volcanic activity or astronomical alignments. During these periods, we increase monitoring and sometimes perform small renewal rituals at affected sites. The watchers remain mostly invisible to those not marked by the covenant, though tourists occasionally capture strange anomalies in photographs or report unusual experiences near the ancient sites. I still wear Mai's pendant, though I now understand it's more than protective amulet. It's a symbol of office, marking me as one of the new generation of guardians. My dreams have changed since the ritual, no longer confined to human perspectives. I sometimes see through other eyes, across boundaries most people never perceive. The mark on my skin, invisible to most observers, occasionally pulses with a life of its own when I approach thin places in the world's fabric. The lookout towers still appear occasionally, manifesting briefly at their anchor points before disappearing again. We've documented 17 distinct appearances over the past 3 years, each coinciding with subtle shifts in the relationship between our world and theirs. The casual observer might attribute these sightings to fog, unusual lighting conditions, or simple misidentification. But we know better. Last month, a tourist family reported getting lost while hiking near Kaina Point on Oahu. They were found 2 days later, disoriented but unharmed, with no memory of where they'd been. The father's camera contained images of a wooden structure that doesn't exist in any official records, a lookout tower standing where no tower should be. More disturbing were the background details, shadowy figures with 2 long limbs observing from the tree line, and landscapes that shifted between photographs taken seconds apart. I flew to Oahu immediately. The location matched one of our monitored thin spots, a place where the boundary had been stable for months. Something had changed. When I arrived at the site, I found no physical tower, but the pendant grew hot against my skin, and the mark on my forearm throbbed with increasing intensity as I approached the exact spot where the photographs had been taken. Using the techniques we'd developed over the past 3 years, I opened my awareness to the in-between space. The world seemed to shimmer around me, reality becoming permeable. And there, standing just beyond the veil of normal perception, was a watcher, the same one that had spoken to us at Hualai, its human disguise now abandoned in favor of its true form, a shifting configuration of geometry and light that hurt my mind to perceive directly. The covenant falters. It communicated, not through sound but directly into my consciousness. New doors open without anchors. The pattern fragments. Images flooded my mind. Drilling platforms off the Kona coast. New development destroying ancient sites. Scientists penetrating deep into volcanic systems without understanding the delicate equilibrium they disturbed. Human activity was creating ruptures faster than our monitoring network could stabilize them. What can we do? I asked, knowing the answer even as I formed the question. Expand, came the reply. The islands are merely nodes in a greater pattern. The covenant must extend beyond these shores. I understood then that what had happened in Hawaii was merely the beginning. The boundaries were thinning worldwide, accelerated by human activities that unknowingly disrupted ancient balances. Our small network of observers would need to grow, connecting with other traditional guardians around the world who maintained similar covenants under different names and traditions. As the watcher faded from my perception, it left me with a final message, not a threat, but a simple statement of fact. We remain watchful. As must you. I returned to our headquarters with a new understanding of our mission's scope. What had begun as a desperate negotiation to save ourselves had evolved into something far more significant. A renewal of humanity's oldest responsibility as conscious guardians of the boundaries between worlds. The lookout towers of Hawaii continue their silent vigil, appearing when and where needed, anchoring realities that would otherwise bleed into one another with catastrophic consequences. And we, the new monitors, continue ours, watching the watchers, maintaining the balance, preserving the thin membrane that separates what we know from what we cannot comprehend. Sometimes, in quiet moments, I find myself gazing toward the distant mountains, searching for the silhouette of a tower against the sky. Not with fear, as I once did, but with recognition, one guardian acknowledging another across the divide between worlds. After all, we're not so different in our purpose. We all stand at the boundaries, keeping watch over the doors between worlds, ensuring they open only when necessary and close properly afterward. And if you ever find yourself on a remote Hawaiian trail and glimpse a wooden structure where none should be, walk away. Unless, of course, you bear the mark of the covenant. In that case, approach with respect and purpose. The towers recognize their guardians, and the doors swing both ways. The engine of my old Jeep Cherokee hums as I wind through the narrow roads toward Hawaii's Nai'oho Lookout Tower. I'm Jasper Callahan, 32 years old, hailing from Portland, Oregon. The salty Pacific air whips through the open window, and I can't help but grin. Camping in Hawaii? Hell yeah, it's a dream. My buddies, Lila Moreno, a 29-year-old barista with a knack for ghost stories, and Theo Kendrick, a 34-year-old biologist who's way too into fungi, are sprawled in the back, arguing over the best way to pitch a tent. We've been planning this for months, ever since Lila found some blog raving about the lookout towers on the Big Island. Secluded, high up, with views that'll make your jaw drop. Sounds perfect, right? Theo's got his nose in a guidebook, muttering about rare mushrooms he hopes to spot. Lila's scrolling her phone, reading up on the tower's history. Apparently, it's an old fire lookout, abandoned for years but opened for campers. The vibe's rustic. Think creaky floors and panoramic views of the jungle and ocean. I'm stoked, but there's this weird knot in my gut. Maybe it's just the winding road. We pull up to the trailhead, and the tower looms above, a rickety silhouette against the sunset. It's taller than I expected, perched on a cliff with dense forest below. Lila nudges me, smirking. Ready for an adventure, Jazz? The hike up is steep, our boots crunching on volcanic rock. I'm hauling most of the gear, tent, cooler, sleeping bags. because Theo's too busy inspecting moss, and Lila's got this thing about traveling light. The air's thick with the scent of damp earth and wild ginger. By the time we reach the tower, my legs are burning. It's a 4-story wooden structure, paint peeling, with a wraparound deck. Inside, it's bare. A table, some chairs, and windows that frame the endless green. I drop my pack, panting. This place is wild, I say, trying to shake that uneasy feeling. Lila's already snapping photos, her dark hair swinging as she leans out a window. "This view's unreal," she says. "You can see the whole damn coast." Theo's poking at some mold on the wall, muttering about spores. I roll my eyes but laugh. These two are ridiculous, but they're my people. We unpack, cracking open some beers from the cooler. The sun's dipping low, painting the sky orange and pink. It's peaceful, but something about the tower feels off, like it's watching us. I brush it off, probably just tired. Dinner's simple, hot dogs roasted over a camp stove. Lila starts telling some creepy story about Hawaiian spirits, her voice low and dramatic. Theo scoffs, saying it's all myths, but I notice he keeps glancing at the windows. The jungle's noisy, birds, bugs, the rustle of leaves, but it's a comforting kind of chaos. Still, that knot in my stomach tightens. I tell myself it's nothing, just the thrill of being somewhere new. We finish eating, and Lila suggests a night hike. Theo's hesitant, but I'm game. "Let's explore," I say, grabbing a flashlight. The trail near the tower is narrow, winding through thick ferns and banyan trees. The beam of my flashlight dances across the path, catching glints of spiderwebs. Lila's up ahead, fearless as always, while Theo lags, muttering about tripping hazards. I'm in the middle, trying to keep the group together. The air's cooler now, and the jungle feels alive, pulsing with energy. I can't shake the sense that we're not alone out here. It's not just the wildlife, it's something heavier, like a presence. I laugh it off, telling Lila to quit spooking us. Back at the tower, we climb to the top deck to stargaze. The sky's a blanket of stars, clearer than anything I've seen in Portland. Lila points out constellations, her voice soft. Theo's quiet, staring into the dark jungle below. I lean on the railing, the wood creaking under my weight. It's beautiful, but that uneasy feeling's still there, gnawing at me. I tell myself it's just the isolation. We're miles from anyone, just us in the tower. What could go wrong? We head inside to crash, rolling out sleeping bags on the floor. Lila's already snoring, and Theo's muttering about his research. I lie there, staring at the ceiling, the tower creaking in the wind. It's probably nothing, but every groan of the wood feels like a whisper. I close my eyes, trying to focus on the adventure ahead. Tomorrow, we'll hike, maybe swim in a nearby stream. It's gonna be great. But as I drift off, I swear I feel the tower shift, like it's settling deeper into the earth. I wake up to a faint hum, barely audible over the jungle's chatter. It's not mechanical, more like a low, steady pulse. I sit up, heart pounding. Lila and Theo are still out cold. The windows are pitch black, reflecting my own wide-eyed face. I grab my flashlight, aiming it outside, but it catches nothing but trees. The hum fades, and I tell myself it's just my imagination. Still, I don't sleep much after that. Morning light spills through the tower's windows, painting the wooden floor in golden streaks. I'm up early, brewing coffee on the camp stove while Lila and Theo sleep like logs. My head's foggy from last night's weird hum, but I shake it off. Probably just the wind, right? The jungle's alive outside, birds screeching like they're arguing over breakfast. I sip my coffee, staring out at the misty cliffs. Niall's gorgeous, but this lookout tower feels more isolated than I expected. I'm used to Portland's noise, traffic, cafes, people. Out here, it's just us and the wild. I kinda like it, but that knot in my gut's still there, nagging. Lila finally stumbles out of her sleeping bag, hair a mess. "Coffee. Now," she grumbles, snatching my mug. I laugh, but she's not kidding. She's useless without caffeine. Theo's next, already nerding out about some fungus he spotted on the stairs. "It's probably Clavaria zolingari," he says, like I care. We eat granola bars and plan the day. The map shows a trail to a nearby waterfall, maybe a mile away. Sounds perfect, but the Jeep's parked at the trailhead, and we've only got one set of keys. I pat my pocket. Yep, still there. Let's not lose these, I say, half joking. The hike starts easy, the trail cutting through dense jungle. Lila's in front, humming some song, while Theo stops every 5 seconds to inspect plants. I'm carrying the day pack, water, snacks, a first aid kit. The air's thick, humid, and smells like earth. About halfway, Theo trips over a root, scraping his knee. "Great," he mutters, brushing it off. Lila teases him, but I notice he's limping slightly. I offer to turn back, but he waves me off. "I'm fine, Jasper. Don't baby me." Still, it's a reminder, we're far from help out here. We reach the waterfall, a roaring cascade into a turquoise pool. It's straight out of a postcard, but something feels off. The air's too still, like the jungle's holding its breath. Lila strips to her swimsuit and dives in, whooping. I hesitate, that uneasy feeling creeping back. Theo's sitting on a rock, sketching some moss. I join Lila, the cold water a shock to my system. For a moment, it's fun, splashing, laughing, like we're kids. But then I notice something carved into a tree by the pool, a symbol, like a spiral with jagged edges. It looks old, weathered. "Weird," I mutter. Lila swims over, squinting at it. "Probably some hiker's graffiti," she says, but her voice wavers. Theo's curious now, snapping a photo. "Could be cultural," he says, ever the scientist. "Maybe Hawaiian?" I don't buy it. It doesn't feel like art. It feels disturbing, like a warning. We shrug it off and head back to the tower, but the mood shifted. Theo's limp is worse, and Lila's quieter than usual. I keep glancing back, half expecting to see someone watching us. Nothing's there, but the jungle feels heavier now. Back at the tower, we're beat. Theo's knee is swollen, so I dig out the first aid kit. "You're a mess," I tease, wrapping his knee. He grumbles, but lets me help. Lila's flipping through her phone, no signal, muttering about how we're cut off from civilization. It's supposed to be a joke, but it lands flat. We decide to stay put tonight. No more hikes. I cook some pasta on the stove, but the vibe's off. Every creak of the tower feels louder, more deliberate. I keep thinking about that symbol. It's stuck in my head, like a bad dream. As the sun sets, we climb to the deck to watch. The sky's blood red, and the jungle's noises shift. Less birds, more rustling. Lila points out a faint glow deep in the trees, like a fire. "Probably another camper," she says, but her eyes say she's not sure. Theo's skeptical, saying it's too far out. I grab my binoculars, but the glow's gone before I can focus. My heart's racing now. Was it real? I don't say it out loud, but that scary feeling's back, stronger. I tell them it's nothing, but I'm not convincing anyone. We head inside, locking the door. It's silly, there's no one out here, but it feels necessary. Theo's reading his guidebook, Lila's sketching that spiral symbol, and I'm pacing. The tower's creaking again, and I swear I hear that hum from last night, low and steady. I check the windows, nothing but darkness. Maybe it's the wind, I say, but my voice sounds thin. Lila looks up, her pencil pausing. "You heard it too?" she whispers. Theo frowns, but doesn't argue. We're all on edge now. I lie in my sleeping bag, flashlight clutched tight. The hum's louder, vibrating through the floor. It's not the wind. It's too rhythmic, too alive. I want to check outside, but my body won't move. Lila's awake, her eyes glinting in the dark. Theo's snoring, oblivious. I tell myself to chill, but my mind's racing. That symbol, the glow, the hum, it's all connected, isn't it? Something's out there, and it's not just my imagination playing tricks. The hum's gone by morning, but I barely slept. My eyes are gritty, and Lila looks just as rough, nursing her coffee in silence. Theo's still out, his bandaged knee propped on a chair. I step onto the deck, hoping the sunrise will shake this creepy feeling. The jungle's misty, the air heavy with damp earth. Nailha's cliffs stretch below, but the beauty feels wrong today, like a mask hiding something scary. I scan the trees for that glow we saw last night. Nothing, just green, endless green. But my gut's screaming that something's off, and I can't ignore it anymore. Lila joins me, her sketchbook tucked under her arm. "I keep seeing that spiral," she says, voice low. She flips to a page covered in rough drawings of it. Jagged, uneven, like it's burned into her brain. It's not just a carving, Jasper. I looked it up before we lost signal. It's tied to old Hawaiian stories, something about a guardian spirit, or a curse. I laugh, trying to lighten the mood, but it comes out forced. "You're freaking me out," I say, but I'm already thinking about that hum, that glow. Theo hobbles out, overhearing us. "You guys are paranoid. he says, but his eyes dart to the jungle. He's not as chill as he's pretending. We decide to stick close to the tower today, no hikes. Theo's knee's worse, swollen and red. I rewrap it, but he winces, muttering about infection. We should have brought more supplies, I say, kicking myself for not packing extra meds. Lila's pacing, sketching that damn spiral again. The air feels thick, like a storm's coming, but the sky's clear. Midday, we're eating lunch, peanut butter sandwiches, when the tower shakes. Not a creak, but a full-on jolt, like something slammed into it. I drop my sandwich, heart pounding. What the hell was that? Lila's eyes are wide, her knife frozen mid-spread. Theo's up, limping to the window. Nothing's there, just trees swaying in a breeze that isn't blowing. I run to the deck, scanning the ground below. Nothing's fallen, no rocks, no branches. But the hum's back, louder, vibrating through my boots. I'm about to call it imagination when Lila screams. She's pointing at the floor, where her sketchbook's open. The spiral's there, but it's different. Darker, like someone retraced it in thick, wet ink. I didn't do that, she whispers, backing away. Theo's pale, muttering about hallucinations, but I'm not buying it. This is too real, too disturbing. I grab the book, and the ink's warm, smearing on my fingers. It smells like copper, like blood. My stomach churns. We need to chill, I say, but my voice shakes. We search the tower, top to bottom. No one's here, no signs of anyone sneaking in. But the windows are fogged up, even though it's warm. I wipe one clean, and for a second, I swear I see a face, pale, eyeless, pressed against the glass. I blink, and it's gone. Did you see that? I ask, but Lila's too busy freaking out about her sketchbook, and Theo's muttering about stress. I don't push it. Maybe I'm losing it. But that hum's getting louder, pulsing like a heartbeat. By afternoon, we're jumpy as hell. Every creak, every rustle sets us off. Lila's convinced the spiral's a warning, some ancient curse tied to the land. Theo's still trying to science his way out, talking about infrasound or group hysteria. I'm not sure what to believe, but I know this isn't normal. I suggest packing up, heading back to the Jeep. Theo's knee's too bad to hike, though, and Lila's not keen on leaving him. We stick together, she says, fierce. I nod, but I'm itching to run. As dusk falls, the hum's unbearable, rattling my teeth. We're on the deck, trying to stay calm, when we see it, a figure, down in the jungle. It's tall, too tall, moving wrong, like its limbs don't bend right. It's near where we saw the glow last night. Lila grabs my arm, her nails digging in. That's not a camper, she whispers. Theo's frozen, binoculars shaking in his hands. The figure stops, turning toward us. No face, just a blank, pale oval. My blood runs cold. This is horror, pure and simple. We scramble inside, locking the door, piling chairs against it. The hum's deafening now, shaking the walls. Lila's crying, Theo's muttering nonsense, and I'm gripping the flashlight like it's a weapon. Outside, something scratches at the tower's base, slow and deliberate. It's not an animal. It's not human. My heart's in my throat, and I know one thing for sure. We're not alone anymore, and whatever's out there wants in. The scratching stops, but the hum's a roar now, vibrating through my bones. I'm crouched by the door, flashlight shaking in my hand, while Lila and Theo huddle near the table. The tower feels like a trap, its walls closing in. We can't stay here. I whisper, my voice barely cutting through the noise. Lila's eyes are red, but she nods. Theo's pale, clutching his bad knee. I can't run, he says, voice cracking. I curse under my breath. Leaving him's not an option, but staying's suicide. That thing outside, it's not human, and it's coming for us. The horror's real now, and I'm not waiting to find out what it wants. I grab the Jeep keys from my pocket, checking they're still there. We move fast, stick together. I say, trying to sound braver than I feel. Lila helps Theo up, looping his arm over her shoulder. His limp's worse, but he grits his teeth. We shove the chairs aside, and I crack the door open. The jungle's dark, the air thick with that coppery smell from Lila's sketchbook. No sign of the figure, but the hum's louder outside, like it's coming from the ground. I step onto the deck, heart pounding, and motion for them to follow. The stairs creak as we descend, Theo wincing with every step. I'm in front, flashlight sweeping the path. The jungle's too quiet. No birds, no bugs, just that damn hum. Halfway down, Lila gasps. pointing to the railing. That spiral symbol's carved there, fresh, the wood still splintered. My stomach twists. It's like this thing's marking us, toying with us. Keep moving, I hiss, but my voice shakes. The trailhead's a mile away, and the jeep's our only shot. I'm not sure we'll make it. We hit the trail, moving as fast as Theo can manage. Branches snag my shirt, and the air feels heavy, like it's pushing us back. Lila's muttering prayers, her voice a shaky whisper. I glance back, and my flashlight catches something. Eyes, glowing red in the dark, low to the ground. Not the figure, something else. A dog? No, too big, too wrong. It slinks closer, and I see it. A creature, all teeth and claws, no face, just like the figure. Pure terror grips me. Run, I yell, grabbing Theo's other arm. We stumble through the jungle, the creature's claws scraping behind us. Theo's slowing us down, groaning in pain. I want to scream at him to move faster, but I know he's trying. The trail's a blur, my flashlight bouncing wildly. Lila trips, dropping her pack, but I yank her up. Leave it, I shout. The jeep's close. I see the trailhead's clearing, but the hum's deafening, and the ground shakes like an earthquake. I risk a glance back. The creature's gone, but the tall figure's there now, gliding between trees, its blank face locked on us. We burst into the clearing, the jeep gleaming under moonlight. I fumble the keys, dropping them in the dirt. Shit! I scramble to grab them, my hands shaking. Lila's dragging Theo, who's barely conscious, his knee giving out. I unlock the jeep, shoving them inside. The figure's closer, its limbs jerking like a broken puppet. I slam the driver's door, jamming the key into the ignition. The engine sputters. Come on, come on! I yell, pounding the wheel. The figure's at the edge of the clearing, and that faceless creature's back, crouching low. The jeep roars to life, and I floor it, tires spitting gravel. The figure doesn't chase, just stands there, watching. The creature lunges, claws raking the back bumper with a screech. I swerve, nearly hitting a tree, but keep going. Lila's sobbing, Theo's muttering nonsense, and I'm gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles are white. The hum fades as we speed away, but my heart's still racing. We're alive, but I can't shake the feeling that things not done with us. The road's dark, twisting, and I don't know where we're going, just away. We hit a paved road, the jungle thinning. I glance in the rearview mirror, nothing but darkness. Lila's checking Theo, who's slumped against the window, pale and sweaty. He needs a hospital, she says, voice tight. I nod, focusing on the road. My mind's spinning. Those creatures, that symbol, the hum. It's like something out of a nightmare, but it's real, too real. I keep driving, the headlights cutting through the night, but I can't shake the sense we're still being watched. We find a gas station, its neon sign a beacon in the dark. I pull over, hands trembling as I shut off the engine. Lila's on her phone, finally getting a signal, calling for help. Theo's breathing shallowly, and I'm praying it's just his knee, not something worse. The station's empty, the clerk barely glancing up from his phone. I step outside, needing air, but freeze. There, on the jeep's hood, scratched deep into the paint, is that spiral symbol. My blood runs cold. We escaped, but did we really get away? The gas station's fluorescent lights buzz overhead, casting harsh shadows. Lila's still on the phone, her voice frantic as she begs for an ambulance. Theo's slumped in the back seat, his breathing ragged. I'm pacing, trying to process what just happened. That figure, the creature, the spiral, they're burned into my mind, a horror I can't unsee. The clerk offers us water, but his eyes keep darting to the jeep, to that damn symbol scratched on the hood. I want to ask if he knows something, but my throat's too tight. All I can think is we made it out. Or did we? Lila hangs up, saying help's coming. Theo's bad, Jasper, she whispers, her face pale. I nod, guilt gnawing at me. I should have insisted we leave yesterday, after the glow, the hum. My mistake was thinking we could handle this, that it was just a creepy vibe. Now Theo's hurt, maybe worse, and we're stuck in the middle of nowhere. I check on him. He's feverish, his knee oozing through the bandage. Hang in there, man, I say, but he doesn't respond. The ambulance is taking forever, and the night's too quiet. I keep glancing at the jungle across the road, expecting that faceless thing to slink out. Lila's sitting on the curb, sketching the spiral again, like she can't stop. It's following us, she mutters. I want to tell her she's wrong, but that symbol on the jeep says otherwise. I try to focus on practical stuff, checking the gas tank, keeping Theo comfortable, but my mind's screaming. This is beyond scary. It's a nightmare we can't wake up from. Headlights finally cut through the dark, an ambulance. Paramedics rush to Theo, loading him onto a stretcher. Lila and I follow in the Jeep. The hospital and Hilo are only hope. The drive's a blur, my hands shaking on the wheel. Lila's quiet, clutching her sketchbook like a lifeline. At the hospital, they whisk Theo away, saying his knee's infected, maybe septic. I feel sick. If we'd left sooner, would he be okay? My decision to stay at the tower feels like a death sentence now. We wait in the sterile ER, the hum of fluorescent lights mocking that damn sound from the tower. Lila's flipping through her sketches, stopping on the spiral. I looked it up, she says, voice hollow. It's not just a symbol. It's tied to Pele, the volcano goddess. Some say it marks her wrath, her claim on trespassers. I scoff, but it's weak. Trespassers. That's us, isn't it? Camping on sacred land, ignoring the signs. The guilt's crushing me now, a tragedy unfolding because of my arrogance. Hours drag on. A doctor finally comes out, face grim. Theo's in surgery, but it's bad. Sepsis spread fast. Lila sobs, and I feel like I'm drowning. I step outside for air, the hospital's parking lot dark and empty. That's when I see it. The spiral, scratched into the pavement by the Jeep. My heart stops. It's not over. I run back inside, grabbing Lila. We need to leave, now, I say, but she's frozen, staring at her sketchbook. The spiral's there, drawn in that same wet, coppery ink. We bolt for the Jeep, my mind racing. I should have burned that sketchbook, checked the tower better, done something. My mistakes piled up, and now Theo's dying, maybe because of us. I start the engine, peeling out of the lot. Lila's crying, saying we're cursed. I don't argue. The road stretches ahead, but the hum's back, faint but growing. I glance in the rearview mirror, and there it is, the figure, standing in the distance, its blank face glowing under a streetlight. My scream catches in my throat. We keep driving, Hilo's lights fading behind us. I don't know where we're going, just away. Lila's clutching the door, whispering apologies to Theo, to the land. I want to comfort her, but I'm too scared. The spiral's everywhere now, on road signs, in the cracks of the pavement. It's like the jungle's alive, chasing us. I made the deadly mistake of thinking we could outrun it, that we could escape. Now, I'm not sure we ever will. The hum's louder, the Jeep shaking as I push it faster. Lila's sobbing, and I'm fighting to stay calm. Theo's probably gone, and it's on me. I ignored the signs, dragged us into this horror. The figure's closer in the mirror now, its limbs twitching. I floor the gas, but the road feels wrong, like it's looping back to Niallho. The spiral's in my head, in my bones. We're not escaping. We're just running deeper into the tragedy we started. The tires of my beat-up Toyota Tacoma crunch on the gravel road leading to the Kau Lookout Tower in Niallho, Hawaii. I'm Nora Hensley, 28 years old, from Boise, Idaho. The Big Island's humid air blasts through my open window, smelling of salt and ferns. I've been craving this trip forever, a solo camping adventure to clear my head after a rough year. My friends back home think I'm nuts for driving out here alone, but I need this. Just me, the jungle, and a rickety old fire tower with killer views. I've got my gear packed tight. Tent, stove, a beat-up journal I've been scribbling in since college. Feels like freedom, even if my stomach's doing flips. I pull up to the trailhead, the tower looming ahead, a weathered wooden skeleton perched on a cliff. It's taller than the photos online, surrounded by dense jungle that hums with life. I'm stoked but nervous. Solo camping's new for me. Boise's got mountains, sure, but nothing like this wild, green chaos. I sling my pack over my shoulder, lock the truck, and start the hike. The trail's steep, volcanic rock slippery under my boots. Sweat's dripping by the time I reach the tower, its paint peeling, windows glinting in the late afternoon sun. Inside, it's sparse. Just a table, a couple of chairs, and a creaky floor. The deck wraps around, offering a view of the Pacific that stops me cold. Waves crash far below, and the jungle stretches forever, dark and alive. I set up my sleeping bag, feeling a mix of excitement and unease. This place is gorgeous, but it's so damn isolated. No signal, no people, just me. I shake it off, cracking open a soda from my cooler. The fizz is comforting, like a little piece of home. I decide to explore before dark. The tower's got this eerie vibe, like it's been waiting for me. I find an old logbook on the table, pages yellowed, filled with names and dates from other campers. Some entries are sweet, best sunset ever, but others are weird, like don't go into the trees. I laugh, assuming it's a prank, but the words stick with me. I scribble my name, Nora Hensley, April 2025, and close the book. The jungle's noisy, full of chirps and rustles, but it feels watchful. Dinner's simple, ramen cooked on my stove. I eat on the deck, watching the sky turn pink and gold. It's peaceful, but that nervous flutters back, like I'm being sized up. I tell myself it's just the solitude messing with me. I'm used to Boise's bustle, not this empty quiet. Still, I double-check the door lock before bed. The tower creaks as I settle into my sleeping bag, the sound blending with the jungle's hum. I jot in my journal. Day 1, stoked but spooked. This place is wild. I'm half asleep when I hear it. A low, rhythmic thump, like a heartbeat in the earth. I sit up, heart racing, grabbing my flashlight. The beam catches nothing but dusty walls. The thump fades, and I tell myself it's just the tower settling. Still, I don't sleep easy. I keep picturing that logbook warning, don't go into the trees. It's probably nothing, right? Just some camper's joke. But as I lie there, the jungle feels too close, too alive. Morning comes, and I'm groggy but determined to make this trip epic. I plan a hike to a nearby lava field, map spread out on the table. The tower's still creepy in the daylight, its shadows sharp and wrong. I shake it off, packing water and snacks. I'm here for adventure, not to freak myself out. But as I lace up my boots, I notice something outside. A single palm frond, snapped clean and placed at the base of the stairs. It wasn't there yesterday. I stare at it, my pulse picking up. Could have been the wind, but it looks deliberate, like a marker. I laugh nervously, talking to myself like an idiot. Get it together, Nora. I step over the frond, heading for the trail, but that uneasy feeling's stronger now. The jungle's beautiful, but it's got this scary edge, like it's hiding something. I grip my flashlight tighter, even in daylight, and start walking. The trail's narrow, weaving through ferns and vines. I'm alone, but it doesn't feel that way. Every rustle makes me jump. Every shadow seems to move. I tell myself I'm being paranoid, but that thump from last night echoes in my head. I'm starting to think coming here alone wasn't my brightest idea. Still, I keep going, the lava field calling me. Whatever's out there, I'm not letting it ruin my trip. Not yet. The lava field's a jagged maze of black rock, glinting under the morning sun. I'm hiking alone, my boots crunching on the brittle volcanic crust, the cow lookout tower a distant speck behind me. Niallha's jungle hums with life, but that palm frond from yesterday keeps nagging at me. It's probably nothing, just wind or an animal, but my gut's screaming otherwise. I'm not used to this. Back in Boise, I'd be grabbing coffee with friends, not jumping at shadows. I grip my flashlight, even in daylight, and keep moving. The air's thick, humid, and smells like wet stone. Something about this place feels too quiet, too still, like it's waiting. My map says the lava field loops back to the tower, but the trail's fading, swallowed by vines. I curse under my breath. I should have marked the path better. My pack's heavy with water and snacks, but I forgot to pack a compass. Rookie mistake. I stop to catch my breath, leaning against a twisted ohia tree. That's when I see it. A small pile of stones, stacked neatly in a spiral pattern. It's not natural, too deliberate. My heart skips. It's like that frond, placed, not random. A chill runs through me, creepy and unsettling. I snap a photo with my phone. No signal to send it anywhere. Just some hiker's art. I mutter, trying to convince myself. But the spiral's too perfect, like the one in the logbook's warning. I shake it off and keep going, but the jungle's noises shift. Less birds, more rustling. I'm not alone. I spin around, flashlight raised, but it's just ferns swaying. My pulse is racing now. I decide to head back to the tower early. This lava field's cool, but something's off, and I'm not stupid enough to ignore it. Back at the tower, I'm sweaty and rattled. I drop my pack and chug water, trying to calm down. The logbook's still on the table, open to my entry. I flip through it again, and my stomach drops. There's a new entry, below mine, in shaky handwriting. It sees you. No name, no date. My hands shake as I slam the book shut. I locked the door when I left. Nobody could have gotten in. This is beyond scary now. It's straight up disturbing. I check the windows, the stairs. Nothing's out of place, but I feel watched. I decide to stay put for the afternoon. No more hikes. I cook some beans on my stove, but my appetite's gone. The tower creaks, louder than yesterday, like it's groaning under some weight. I try writing in my journal to chill out, but my pen keeps sketching that spiral without me meaning to. It's like my hand's got a mind of its own. I rip the page out, crumpling it. Get a grip, Nora, I say, but my voice echoes weirdly, like the tower's answering back. The air feels heavy, like a storm's brewing, but the sky's clear. By dusk, I'm on the deck, watching the sunset paint the ocean red. It's gorgeous, but that uneasy feeling's stronger. I spot another spiral, this time scratched into the deck's railing, fresh enough to still have wood shavings. My heart's pounding. I didn't do that, and I've been alone all day. I grab my binoculars, scanning the jungle below. There's a flicker of movement, something pale, darting between trees. Too fast to be human. My breath catches. This isn't just my imagination. Something's out there, and it's close. I lock myself inside, piling my cooler against the door. It's dumb, but it makes me feel safer. The jungle's quiet now, too quiet, like it's holding its breath. I try to sleep, but every creak sets me off. Then I hear it again, that thumping, like a heartbeat, coming from below the tower. It's rhythmic, alive. I clutch my flashlight, aiming it at the floor, but it's just wood. The thump grows louder, vibrating through my sleeping bag. I'm frozen, too scared to move. Whatever's out there knows I'm here. I tell myself to stay calm, but my mind's racing. Should I pack up and leave? The truck's a mile away, and it's pitch black outside. I could wait till morning, but what if that thing gets closer? I check my phone, still no signal. The logbook's warning, the spirals, the thumping. It's all connected, isn't it? I'm starting to think I've stumbled into something I don't understand, something tied to this land. I'm alone, and that was my first mistake. The thumping stops, but now there's a new sound, scratching, slow and deliberate, at the base of the tower. It's not an animal. It's too steady, too intentional. I'm gripping my flashlight like a club, my heart in my throat. I want to look outside, but I'm terrified of what I'll see. The jungle's silent, but the air's electric, like something's about to snap. I'm not sure I can stay here much longer, but leaving feels just as dangerous. The scratching at the tower's base stops, but my heart's still hammering. I'm curled in my sleeping bag, flashlight clutched tight, the cow lookout tower creaking around me. Niall's jungle is dead silent. No crickets, no wind, just a heavy, suffocating quiet. I tell myself it's nothing, just nerves, but that spiral on the railing and the logbook's warning, it sees you, are burned into my brain. This isn't just creepy anymore. It's horror, pure and raw. I'm alone, miles from help, and something's out there, stalking me. I can feel it in my bones. I force myself to stand, creeping to the window. The glass is fogged, even though it's warm. I wipe it clear, my breath hitching. For a second, I see it, a pale shape in the trees, too tall, too thin, its head a blank oval. No eyes, no mouth, just smooth, glistening skin. My stomach lurches, and I stumble back, dropping the flashlight. It clatters, the beam spinning wildly. The figure's gone when I look again, but my skin's crawling. That was no animal, no person. It's something else, something disturbing. I grab my journal, scribbling what I saw, my hand shaking so bad the words are barely legible. I need to document this, to prove I'm not losing it. Back in Boise, I'd laughed this off as a bad dream, but here it's real. The tower shakes suddenly, a sharp jolt that rattles the table. I freeze, listening. The thumping's back, louder, coming from below, like something's climbing the stairs. Each thud feels like a punch to my chest. I want to scream, but my voice is stuck. This is terror, and I'm trapped in it. I check the door, still locked, the cooler wedged against it. But the scratching starts again, higher now, on the tower's walls. It's slow, deliberate, like nails dragging across wood. I'm shaking, picturing that faceless thing circling me. I grab my knife from my pack, a small camping blade, but it feels useless. What good's a knife against something like that? The thumping stops, but the silence is worse, like the calm before a storm. I'm sweating, my pulse roaring in my ears. By morning, I'm a wreck, eyes burning from no sleep. The jungle's noisy again, birds chirping like nothing happened. I step onto the deck, knife in hand, scanning for signs of that thing. The spiral on the railing's deeper now, etched like someone carved it overnight. My heart sinks. I check the stairs. There's a smear of something dark, like oil, on the steps. It smells wrong, sharp and metallic. I gag, backing away. This isn't just scary, it's a nightmare I can't wake up from. I decide to pack up. I can't stay here, not with that thing out there. I shove my gear into my pack, hands trembling. The logbook's still on the table, open to that creepy entry. I rip out the page and stuff it in my pocket, like destroying it will make this stop. It's a dumb move, but I'm desperate. I'm about to head out when I hear it. A low, guttural moan from the jungle. Not animal, not human. It's close, too close. My blood runs cold. I'm not alone. I freeze, listening. The moan comes again, joined by a rustling, like something heavy moving through the ferns. I peer out the window, and there it is, the pale figure, standing at the edge of the trees. It's taller than last night, its limbs bent at wrong angles, like a spider's. It doesn't move, just watches, its blank face locked on the tower. My knees buckle. I want to run, but my body's locked up, paralyzed by fear. The moan shifts, almost like words, but I can't make them out. I force myself to think. The truck's my only shot, but it's a mile away, and that thing's between me and the trailhead. I could wait it out, hope it leaves, but what if it doesn't? The tower feels like a cage now, every creak a threat. I grab my pack, knife, and flashlight, my mind racing. I made a mistake coming here alone, thinking I could handle this. Now I'm in deep, and whatever that thing is, it's not letting me go easy. The moan stops, but the air's electric, like something's about to snap. I'm at the door, ready to bolt, when the tower shakes again, harder. The windows rattle, and the logbook falls, pages flapping open. There, in fresh ink, is another spiral, bigger, darker, like it's bleeding into the paper. My scream catches in my throat. It's here, inside, or it was. I don't know what's worse. All I know is I need to move, now, before it's too late. The tower shakes again, the spiral in the logbook staring up at me like an accusation. I'm gripping my knife, my pack slung over one shoulder, heart pounding so hard it hurts. The cow lookout tower's no longer a shelter. It's a trap, and that faceless thing in the jungle knows I'm here. The air's thick with that metallic smell, and the moan starts again, low and guttural, echoing from the trees. I can't stay. I shove the cooler aside, crack the door, and peer out. The pale figure's still there, motionless, its blank head tilted like it's listening. Pure horror courses through me. I need to get to my truck, a mile away, or I'm done for. I take a shaky breath and bolt down the stairs, my boots slamming against the wood. The jungle's a blur, ferns whipping my legs as I sprint down the trail. The moan follows, louder, like it's chasing me. I don't look back, can't afford to. My flashlight bounces in my hand, useless in the dawn light. The spiral's everywhere now, scratched into trees, etched in the dirt. It's like the jungle's marked me, claiming me. My lungs burn, but I keep running, the trailhead so close yet so far. Every step feels like a gamble with my life. Halfway down, my foot catches on a root, and I hit the ground hard, my knife skittering into the underbrush. No, no, no. I scramble to my feet, leaving the knife. There's no time. The moan's closer, joined by a wet, dragging sound, like something heavy slithering through the ferns. I risk a glance back. The figure's moving now, gliding between trees, its limbs jerking unnaturally. My stomach lurches. It's fast, too fast. I push harder, ignoring the pain in my twisted ankle. The truck's my only shot, my lifeline in this nightmare. The trailhead's in sight, my Toyota Tacoma gleaming in the clearing. I fumble for the keys, my hands slick with sweat. The dragging sounds right behind me. The moan now a hiss, like air escaping a punctured tire. I don't look, I can't. I reach the truck, yanking the door open, and dive inside, slamming it shut. My fingers shake as I jam the key into the ignition. The engine sputters once, twice. Come on, I scream, pounding the wheel. The figure's at the edge of the clearing, its blank face inches from the trees, watching. The hiss is deafening now. The engine roars to life, and I floor it, tires screeching on gravel. The figure doesn't chase, just stands there, but the hiss follows, vibrating through the truck. I swerve, nearly clipping a tree, my eyes locked on the road. The jungle blurs past, but I feel it. That thing's presence, like a weight on my chest. My ankle throbs, and I'm gasping, but I don't stop. The trailhead fades in the rear view, and for a moment, I think I've made it. Then I see it, a fresh spiral scratched into the dashboard, deep and jagged. My blood runs cold. It's not over. I hit a paved road, the jungle thinning as Niallha's cliffs come into view. The hiss fades, but my heart's still racing. I'm shaking, tears blurring my vision. I keep driving, no destination, just away. The spirals in my head now, burned into my mind like a brand. I think of Boise, my friends, my safe little apartment, worlds away from this terror. I should have stayed home, never come to this cursed place. My phone still got no signal, and I'm alone, no one to tell me what the hell that thing was. I spot a diner up ahead, its neon sign flickering. I pull over, needing people, lights, anything normal. The parking lot's empty, just a sleepy waitress inside. I stumble out, locking the truck, and check the rear view one last time. Nothing's there, but the spiral on the dashboard glints under the diner's lights. I limp inside, my ankle screaming, and collapse into a booth. The waitress brings coffee, eyeing me like I'm a ghost. "You okay, hon?" she asks. I nod, but I'm not. That thing's still out there, and I feel it watching. I sip the coffee, trying to think. I could drive to Hilo, find a hospital for my ankle, but what if it follows? The logbook's warning, the spirals, that faceless thing, it's all connected, tied to this land. I was an idiot, thinking I could camp here alone, ignoring the signs. The waitress mentions a ranger station nearby, says they've had weird reports from the lookout. My stomach twists. I need to get out of Niallha, but I'm terrified of what's waiting on the road. I'm about to leave when I notice the diner's window, a spiral smudged in grease, right where I'm sitting. My breath catches. It wasn't there when I sat down. I bolt for the truck, heart pounding, the waitress calling after me. The keys shake in my hand as I start the engine. I'm not safe here, not anywhere. The jungle's alive, and it's not letting me go. I peel out, the road stretching into the dark, praying I can outrun whatever's chasing me. The road to Hilo's a winding blur, my truck's headlights slicing through the night. My ankle's swollen, throbbing with every press of the gas pedal, but I don't stop. The spiral on the dashboard glints, a constant reminder of the horror I can't shake. That faceless thing, the hiss, the jungle's weight, it's all too real, too disturbing. I keep checking the rear view, expecting that pale figure to loom up, its bent limbs reaching. Nothing's there, but I feel it, like a shadow stitched to my soul. I made a mistake coming to Niallha, thinking I could handle the wild alone. Now I'm paying for it. I hit Hilo's outskirts, streetlights a faint comfort. My phone finally pings, a weak signal. I pull into a gas station, hands trembling as I text my friend in Boise. Something's wrong. Call me. No reply yet. The station's empty, the clerk half asleep. I limp to the bathroom to clean up, splashing water on my face. My reflection's a mess. Eyes wild, dirt streaked across my cheeks. I look like I've seen a ghost, and maybe I have. That thing wasn't human, wasn't natural. It's tied to the land, to those spirals, and I walked right into its trap. Back at the truck, I check my pack. The crumpled logbook page is still in my pocket, the words "It sees you" scrawled in shaky ink. I should have left it, burned it, anything but kept it. My mistake was thinking I could control this, that I could just leave. I toss it in the glove box, but my fingers brush something wet. I pull my hand back. My fingertips are smeared with that same dark, oily stuff from the tower's stairs. It smells like metal, like death. My heart stops. It's in here with me. I drive again, Hilo's lights fading as I head for the highway. My phone buzzes, my friend, finally. "Nora, you okay?" she asks. I try to explain, but the words tumble out wrong, a jumble of spirals and faceless things. She thinks I'm drunk or crazy, tells me to find a hospital. I hang up, frustrated. The road's dark now, the jungle pressing in. The hiss is back, faint but growing, vibrating through the truck. I glance at the dashboard. The spiral's deeper, like something's carving it while I drive. Terror grips me, cold and sharp. I spot a sign for a ranger station and swerve toward it, desperate for help. The building's small, a single light on. I limp inside, babbling about the tower, the figure, the spirals. The ranger, an older guy with tired eyes, listens but looks skeptical. Folks get spooked out there, he says. Old Hawaiian stories, Pele's wrath. My blood runs cold. Pele, the volcano goddess. Those spirals, they're hers, aren't they? I trespassed, and now I'm marked. My mistake was ignoring the land's rules, thinking I was above it. The ranger offers to check the tower tomorrow, but I can't wait. I stumble back to the truck, the hiss louder now, like a voice whispering my name. I start the engine, but the headlights catch something. A spiral, scratched into the pavement, glowing faintly. I scream, flooring the gas. The truck lurches forward, but the hiss turns to a wail, shaking the windows. I glance in the rear view, and there it is, the figure standing in the road, its blank face glowing under the stars. My heart's in my throat. I can't outrun it. I keep driving, the highway a lifeline I'm clinging to. The spirals are everywhere, on signs, in the cracks of the road, in my mind. My ankles screaming, my vision blurring. I think of Boise, my safe little life, now a world away. I should have stayed home, never come to this cursed place. The wail grows, the truck shaking like it's falling apart. I made a deadly mistake, thinking I could escape. The figure's closer now, its limbs twitching in the mirror. I'm not driving away from it. I'm driving deeper into its trap. The road loops, impossibly, back toward Nielho. The jungle's alive, branches scraping the truck like fingers. The spiral on the dashboard pulses, wet and dark, like it's bleeding. I'm sobbing now, my hands slipping on the wheel. The figure's beside the road, then in front, then everywhere. I swerve, tires screeching, but the wail's inside me now, filling my head. My last thought is of the logbook, the warning I ignored. The truck spins, the jungle swallows me, and the tragedy's complete. I'm hers now, claimed by the land I disrespected. My old Ford Bronco rumbles down a bumpy dirt road toward the Mauna Loa Lookout Tower in Nielho, Hawaii. I'm Felix Navarro, 35 years old, from Tucson, Arizona. The air's thick with salt and jungle heat, blasting through my open window as I grip the wheel. I've been itching for this trip, a chance to unplug with my cousin, Maricela Cruz, 31, a chef with a wild streak, and her friend, Koa Palakiko, 33, a local surf instructor who knows the Big Island like his own backyard. Tucson's deserts are home, but Hawaii's raw, green chaos is something else. This tower's supposed to have insane views, perfect for a weekend of camping and stargazing. We pull up to the trailhead, the tower rising above like a weathered sentinel, its wooden frame chipped and gray. It's perched on a ridge, the Pacific crashing far below, jungle sprawling in every direction. Maricela's already out, hauling her fancy cooler, cracking jokes about my sad bachelor snacks. Koa's got this calm vibe, scanning the trees like he's reading a map. This place has stories, he says, half smiling. I shrug, but my stomach's doing a weird flip. Probably just the long drive. The hike up's brutal, volcanic rocks slick under our boots. I'm lugging most of the gear, tent, stove, sleeping bags, while Maricela complains about the humidity messing with her hair. Koa's pointing out plants, naming them in Hawaiian, his voice steady like he's done this 100 times. The tower's bigger up close, for stories of creaky wood with a wraparound deck. Inside, it's bare, a dusty table, some chairs, and windows framing the jungle's endless green. I drop my pack, sweating. This is gonna be epic, I say, trying to ignore that uneasy twinge. Maricela's snapping selfies, her laugh echoing. Felix, you look like you saw a ghost already, she teases. Koa's poking around, finding an old ranger's log tucked in a corner. People used to man this for fires, he says, flipping through brittle pages. I glance over, names, dates, some random notes about weather. One entry catches my eye. Stay out of the crater. No explanation, just that. I laugh it off, but it sticks with me. The jungle's noisy, birds, bugs, leaves rustling, but it feels heavy, like it's watching. We set up camp inside, rolling out sleeping bags on the floor. Maricela's got her portable grill going, cooking up some spam musubi she swears is life-changing. Koa's telling stories about growing up on the island, mentioning old Hawaiian legends about night marchers, ghostly warriors who roam the land. I roll my eyes, but his voice has this serious edge that makes me pause. The sun's dipping, painting the sky orange. It's gorgeous, but that twinge in my gut's back, stronger now. Just the isolation, I tell myself. Dinner's a hit. The musubi as good as Maricela promised. We crack open some beers, the tower creaking around us. Koa points out stars from the deck, naming them like old friends. Maricela's joking about alien abductions, but I notice Koa's quieter now, glancing at the jungle below. "You good, man?" I ask. He nods, but his eyes say something else. The air's cooler, the jungle's sounds shifting, less chirpy, more restless. I shake it off, but I'm starting to feel like we're not as alone as we think. We head inside to crash, the tower groaning in the wind. Maricela's out fast, snoring like a chainsaw, but Koa's still awake, staring at the ceiling. I'm about to ask what's up when I hear it. A faint chant, like voices carried on the breeze. It's not English, not anything I recognize. I sit up, heart picking up. "You hear that?" I whisper. Koa nods, his face tight. "Old stuff," he mutters. "Don't mess with it." I want to laugh, but the chant's eerie, almost hypnotic. It's probably nothing, right? Just the wind playing tricks. I grab my flashlight, aiming it out the window, but the beam catches only trees. The chant fades, leaving just the jungle's hum. Koa's still tense, his hand on his pocket knife. Maricela stirs, mumbling in her sleep. I lie back down, telling myself it's all in my head. Tucson's never this quiet, and maybe the silence is messing with me. Still, I double-check the door lock before closing my eyes. The tower feels alive, its creaks too rhythmic, like it's breathing with us. I'm half asleep when the chant starts again, louder, closer. My eyes snap open, and I see Koa sitting up, staring at the door. The air's thick, electric, like something's about to happen. I want to say it's just a prank, some locals messing with us, but deep down, I know it's not. Something's out there, and it's not friendly. I grip my flashlight tighter, my heart thudding. This trip was supposed to be fun, but it's starting to feel like a mistake. The morning sun cuts through the Mauna Loa lookout tower's windows, warming the dusty floor. I'm up early, brewing coffee on the camp stove while Maricela snores and Koa's already outside, scanning the jungle. Naelha's cliffs sparkle below, but that chant from last night stuck in my head, creepy and persistent. Tucson's got its own weird vibes. Coyotes howling, desert winds. But this is different, heavier. I shake it off, sipping my coffee, but my gut's telling me something's not right. The tower's too quiet, like it's holding its breath, and I can't ignore that disturbing feeling crawling up my spine. Maricela stumbles out, grabbing my mug with a grin. "You make weak coffee, Felix," she teases, but her eyes dart to the windows. Koa comes back in, his face tighter than usual. "Found something," he says, holding up a small, woven cord, knotted in a strange pattern, dangling from a tree near the trail. "Not a tourist thing," he mutters. "Old, maybe ceremonial." I laugh, trying to lighten the mood, but it lands flat. The cord's too deliberate, like someone left it for us to find. My heart's picking up. We plan a hike to a nearby volcanic crater, a mile out. Koa's hesitant, saying the area's heavy with history, but Maricela's all in, craving adventure. I'm torn but agree, packing water and snacks. The trail's rough, volcanic rock crunching under our boots. Koa's leading, pointing out plants, but he's quieter, scanning the trees like he's expecting trouble. Maricela's joking about lava gods, but I notice she's clutching her knife sheath. I pat my pocket, Bronco keys are there. One vehicle, one shot to get out if things go south. Halfway to the crater, we find another cord, identical to the first, tied to a branch. Koa freezes, his jaw tight. "This ain't right," he says, cutting it down. I'm starting to agree. The jungle's too still, no birds, just a faint hum in the air, like last night's chant but softer. Maricela snaps a photo, but her hands shake. "Just some local prank, right?" she says, but her voice wavers. I'm not so sure. This feels scary, like we're being watched. I suggest turning back, but Koa insists we keep going. "We're close," he says. My mistake, trusting his calm. The crater's a massive, blackened pit, steam rising from cracks. It's awe-inspiring but unsettling, like we're trespassing. Koa's muttering about Pele, the volcano goddess, and how some places aren't meant for outsiders. Maricela rolls her eyes, but I see her glancing back at the trail. Then we see it, A pile of stones, arranged in a tight, knotted pattern like the cords. It's not natural, too precise. My stomach twists. We should go, I say, but Koa's already kneeling, studying it. This is old, he whispers. Older than us. Back at the tower, we're rattled. Maricella's trying to joke, but she's pacing, her knife out now. Koa's flipping through the ranger's log, finding more entries about the crater. Don't disturb the stones. My heart sinks. Did we mess up by getting too close? The tower creaks louder, like it's protesting. I cook rice on the stove, but none of us eat much. The hum's back, faint but steady, vibrating through the floor. I check the windows, nothing but jungle. Still, that disturbing sense of being watched is stronger now, like eyes boring into us. As dusk falls, we're on the deck, the sky blood red. Koa points out a faint glow deep in the jungle, near the crater. Not campers, he says, voice low. Maricela grabs my binoculars, but the glow's gone before she can focus. My pulse races. Just fireflies, I say, but I don't believe it. Koa's gripping his knife, his comm cracking. The hum's louder, pulsing like a heartbeat. Maricela's sketching the chord's pattern, her hand shaking. What if it's not a prank, she whispers. I don't answer. I'm starting to think we're in over our heads. We lock the door, piling chairs against it. It's silly, but it feels necessary. The hum's constant now, rattling my teeth. Koa's muttering about night marchers, saying we should have stayed away from the crater. Maricela's snapping at him to stop, but her eyes are wide, scared. I'm pacing, keys in my pocket, wondering if we should bolt for the Bronco. The jungle's silent, but the air's heavy, like something's about to snap. I tell myself it's just nerves, but deep down, I know it's more. Something's out there, and it's not happy we're here. The hum spikes, and the tower shakes, a low groan echoing from below. Maricela gasps, pointing to the floor. The knotted pattern from the cords is there, etched into the wood, fresh and deep. My heart stops. Nobody could have done that. We've been here all day. Koa's face is pale, his knife drawn. We pissed something off, he says. The hum's a roar now, and I swear I hear footsteps. Not human, too heavy, circling the tower. We're not alone, and whatever's out there is closing in. The tower's shaking, the knotted pattern etched in the floor glowing faintly under the lantern's light. My heart's pounding, the hum a deafening pulse that rattles my bones. Maricela's clutching her knife, eyes wide, while Koa's by the window, his face grim as he scans the jungle. Niall's night is too quiet, the air thick with that metallic tang, like blood and rust. The Mauna Loa lookout tower feels like a cage now, and whatever's out there, those heavy steps circling below, knows we're trapped. This isn't just creepy anymore. It's pure horror, and I'm kicking myself for thinking this trip would be fun. I grab the ranger's log, flipping to that warning. Don't disturb the stones. My stomach churns. We didn't touch the pile at the crater, but we got too close, didn't we? Koa's muttering about Pele, saying the knotted cords are offerings, markers for something ancient. We're on her land, he whispers, his voice shaking. Maricela snaps. Stop it, Koa? You're freaking me out. But she's trembling, her sketch of the knots smudged with sweat. I want to calm them, but the hum's so loud it's drowning my thoughts, and those steps are closer, thudding up the stairs. The tower jolts, like something slammed into it. Maricela screams, dropping her knife. I dive for it, my hands shaking as I shove it into her palm. Stay sharp, I say, but my voice cracks. Koa's at the door, checking the lock, but the chairs we piled against it are vibrating, sliding an inch. I grab my flashlight, aiming it out the window. For a second, I see it, a shape, too tall, cloaked in shadow, its head a twisted knot of cords, pulsing like a heart. No face, just darkness. My blood runs cold. This is beyond disturbing. It's a nightmare come to life. We huddle by the table, the hum so intense it's blurring my vision. Koa's muttering prayers in Hawaiian, his knife drawn. Maricela's sobbing, sketching that knot over and over, like she's possessed. I'm gripping my Bronco keys, my mind racing. We need to get out, but that thing's on the stairs, blocking the only way down. The windows are too high to jump. I curse myself for not leaving after the first chant, for dragging us into this. Tucson's deserts never felt this alive, this angry. The steps stop, but the silence is worse, heavy with intent. Then, a voice, not human, hissing words I can't understand, like a chant twisted wrong. It's coming from inside the tower. My heart stops. The lantern flickers, and the knotted pattern on the floor pulses brighter, wet now, like it's bleeding. Maricela gasps, pointing to the ceiling. More knots, dripping dark liquid, forming overhead. It's in here, she whispers, her voice breaking. Koa's praying louder, but it's no use. The air's electric, suffocating, like the jungle's swallowing us whole. I force myself to move, checking the windows. They're fogged, streaked with oily smears that form knots. I wipe one clear, and there it is, the figure, pressed against the glass, its corded head twitching. I stumble back, yelling for Koa and Maricela to get down. The glass cracks, a slow, deliberate spiderweb. The hiss turns to a wail, shaking the walls. I'm shaking too, my flashlight useless against this thing. We're trapped, and it's not just outside anymore. It's everywhere, seeping into the tower like a virus. Koa grabs my arm, his eyes wild. We gotta burn the cords, he says, pointing to the one he found. It's tied to them. I hesitate. Fire in a wooden tower's a bad idea, but what choice do we have? Maricela's nodding, frantic, tearing pages from her sketchbook. We pile them with the cord, and I fumble for my lighter. The wail spikes, the figure slamming against the window, glass splintering. My hands shake as I light the pile, flames licking up fast. The hum falters, but the figure's still there, its knotted head pulsing faster, angrier. The fire spreads, smoke stinging my eyes. Maricela's coughing. Koa's pulling us toward the door. We gotta go now, he yells. The chairs are toppled, the door rattling like something's trying to break through. The flames are climbing the walls, the knotted pattern glowing red hot. I don't know if burning the cord helped or made it worse, but we're out of time. The wail's deafening, the figure's shadow looming through the smoke. My mistake was thinking we could fight this, that we could win against something this old, this angry. I kicked the door open, the stairs slick with that dark, oily liquid. The figure's gone, but the jungle's alive, branches snapping, the wail echoing from every direction. We stumble down, Koa half carrying Maricela, me clutching the keys. The Bronco's a mile away, and the fire's spreading behind us, the tower groaning like it's dying. The hum's back, louder, and I swear the ground's shaking. Whatever we woke up, it's not letting us go easy. We're running for our lives, but I'm not sure we'll make it. Smoke chokes the air as the Mauna Loa lookout tower burns behind us, the knotted pattern on the floor glowing like molten lava. I'm sprinting down the stairs, Maricela and Koa right behind me, the wail of that thing piercing my skull. Niallha's jungle is a dark blur, the hum shaking the ground under our feet. My Bronco keys are slick in my sweaty hand. The trailhead a mile away, our only hope. That faceless, corded thing is somewhere close. I feel its presence, heavy and angry, like the land itself wants us gone. This is horror, raw and relentless, and I'm kicking myself for ever thinking this trip would be a good time. The stairs end, and we hit the trail, branches clawing at us. Maricela's coughing, her knife still clutched tight, while Koa's scanning the trees, his own blade drawn. The wail shifts, closer now, coming from the left. I swing my flashlight, catching a glimpse of it. The figure, its knotted head pulsing, gliding through the ferns too fast. My heart's in my throat. Run, I yell, shoving Maricela forward. Koa's limping, his ankle twisted from the stairs, but he keeps up, muttering prayers under his breath. The jungle's alive, vines snapping like they're reaching for us. The trail's a nightmare, slick with that oily liquid from the tower. I slip, catching myself on a tree, and see it, a fresh knot, carved into the bark, dripping black. My stomach lurches. It's marking our path, hurting us. Maricela's sobbing. We shouldn't have burned it, but Koa snaps. No choice. The fire's roaring behind us, the tower collapsing in a shower of sparks. The wail spikes, and I hear that dragging sound again, like cords slithering over rock. It's close, too close. The Broncos are only shot, but it feels like we're running into a trap. We're halfway to the trailhead when Koa stumbles, his ankle giving out. He hits the ground hard, cursing. I grab his arm, hauling him up, but the wail's right behind us now, the figure's shadow flickering in my peripheral. Don't look, I shout, dragging Koa forward. Maricela's ahead, screaming for us to hurry. The hum's so loud it's rattling my teeth, the ground trembling like an earthquake. I risk a glance back. The figure's there, its knotted head splitting open, revealing a maw of writhing cords. Pure terror grips me. We're not outrunning this. The trailhead's in sight, the Bronco's headlights glinting from where I parked it. I fumble the keys, nearly dropping them, my hands shaking so bad I can barely hold on. Maricela reaches the truck first, yanking the passenger door open. I shove Koa inside, his face pale, blood seeping from his ankle. The figure's at the edge of the clearing, its cords twitching like snakes. I slam into the driver's seat, jamming the key into the ignition. The engine sputters. "Come on," I scream, pounding the wheel. The wail's deafening, the figure gliding closer, its maw pulsing. The Bronco roars to life, and I floor it, tires spitting gravel. The figure doesn't chase, just watches, its cords writhing. The wail fades as we speed away, but the hum's still there, vibrating through the seats. Maricela's crying, Koa's clutching his ankle, muttering about Pele's wrath. I keep my eyes on the road, but I see it, a knotted cord, dangling from the rearview mirror. It wasn't there before. My blood runs cold. We're not free, not even close. The jungle's still with us, its anger seeping into the truck. We hit a paved road, Niall's cliffs fading behind us. I'm shaking, my knuckles white on the wheel. Koa's breathing hard, his ankle swelling fast. "We need a hospital," Maricela says, her voice raw. I nod, but my mind's spinning. That thing, the knots, the hum, it's all tied to the land, to something we disturbed. My mistake was thinking we could camp here, ignoring Koa's warnings about the crater. Now we're marked, and I don't know if we'll ever outrun it. The road stretches on, but I feel its eyes on us. I pull into a gas station, its neon sign a flicker of normalcy. Maricela's on her phone, finally getting a signal, calling for help. Koa's slumped against the window, feverish. I step out, needing air, but freeze. The Bronco's hood is covered in knots, scratched deep into the paint, still wet with that black ooze. My heart stops. It followed us. The clerk inside barely glances up, but I see him make a sign with his hands, like a ward. I'm back in the truck in seconds, my hands trembling as I grip the wheel. We drive toward Hilo, the hospital, our only plan. The hum's fainter but still there, like a pulse in the air. Maricela's quiet, sketching knots again, her hands moving on their own. Koa's muttering, half delirious, about Pele claiming us. I want to tell them we're safe, but the cord on the rear view sways, like it's alive. The jungle's not done with us, and I'm terrified we've only delayed the inevitable. Every shadow feels like that thing, waiting to strike. The highway to Hilo's dark, the Bronco's headlights barely cutting through the night. My hands are shaking, the knotted cord swinging from the rear view like a noose. Maricela's in the passenger seat, her sketchbook open, knots covering every page, drawn in that same black ooze. Koa's in the back, his ankle oozing through the bandage, his fever spiking. The hum's still there, a low throb in my bones, reminding me of the horror we left at the tower, or thought we did. Niall's jungle feels alive, chasing us, its anger seeping into every mile. My biggest mistake was thinking we could escape it. We hit Hilo's outskirts, streetlights of faint comfort. Maricela's phone buzzes. She's got a signal, texting a friend for help. Koa needs a doctor now, she says, her voice hollow. I nod, guilt crushing me. I should have listened to Koa's warnings, turned back after the first cord. Tucson's deserts never felt this vengeful, but here, we're outsiders, and the land knows it. Koa's muttering about Pele, saying we disturbed her shrine. I want to argue, but the knots on the hood, the cord in the truck, they're proof he's right. We pull into the hospital lot, paramedics rushing Koa inside. Maricela and I follow. The sterile hall's a stark contrast to the jungle's chaos. The doctors say Koa's septic, his ankle infected with something they can't identify. Looks like he was exposed to something toxic, one says, frowning at the black ooze. My stomach twists. That wasn't just an infection, it's the land, marking him. Maricela's crying, blaming herself for pushing the hike. I'm silent, knowing it's my fault too. I led us into this tragedy, ignoring every sign. In the waiting room, Maricela's sketching again, her hands moving like they're possessed. The knots are darker, wetter, like they're bleeding through the paper. I grab her wrist, stopping her. Throw it away, I say, my voice sharp. She nods, tearing the pages out, but her eyes are distant, scared. I check my phone. No messages, just a photo I took of the crater's stone pile. now showing a faint knot pattern I didn't see before. My heart sinks. This isn't over. The land's still with us, its wrath unrelenting. A nurse calls us. Koa's worse, in surgery, but it's not looking good. Maricela breaks down, and I feel like I'm drowning. I step outside for air, the hospital lot dark and empty. That's when I see it. The Bronco's covered in knots now, etched into every surface, glowing faintly. My breath catches. I run back inside, grabbing Maricela. We need to leave, I say, but she's frozen, staring at her hands. They're smudged with that black ooze, like she's been marked too. My mistake was thinking we could fight this, that burning the cord would stop it. We get in the Bronco, my hands shaking as I start the engine. The hum's louder, the cord on the rear view pulsing like a heartbeat. Maricela's sobbing, saying we're cursed. I don't argue. The hospital fades as we drive, no destination, just away. The knots are everywhere, on signs, in the road's cracks, in my head. I think of Tucson, my quiet life, now a distant dream. The wail starts again, faint but growing, shaking the truck. I glance in the rear view. The figure's there, its knotted head splitting open, cords writhing like a nest of snakes. I floor the gas, the highway blurring. Koa's probably gone, and it's on me. I ignored the chants, the cords, the warnings. The figure's closer, its cords stretching toward us, like they're alive. Maricela's screaming, clawing at her hands, the ooze spreading. The road twists, looping back toward Nailho, impossibly. The jungle's alive, branches scraping the truck, the wail deafening. My final mistake was thinking we could outrun Pele's wrath. The Bronco swerves, the cords tighten, and the land claims us, a tragedy sealed by our own arrogance.